Chapter 1650 Heavenly Flame Tribulation. In the end, Zhongxian gave up on the idea. The sanctity of lineages had to be upheld. Since Feng Zi was Yang Shi's direct disciple, it would be inappropriate for him to take the young man in as his student. It seemed like he would have to search carefully for suitable individuals to take in as his student in the future. Considering how powerful the Golden Page was, it would be best for him to collect as many of it as possible. If he were to have a few hundred golden pages in the Library of Heaven's Path, he just might be able to defeat all of the ancient sages of the otherworldly demonic tribe single-handedly. Wait a moment. Kongsha had 3,000 students, right? Could his reason for taking so many students be for this as well? Such a thought suddenly came to Zhongxian's mind. Kongsha only had 72 direct disciples, but he had over 3,000 normal students. Could it be possible that Kongsha had the Library of Heaven's Path as well, and the reason why he took in so many students was to form as many golden pages as possible? Perhaps, he might have even defeated Vicious by tossing golden pages at him as if they were nothing, forcefully smashing him into meat paste. It was one thing to be defeated by a powerful expert, but to be defeated under a barrage of books. Well, Vicious would have really suffered the most tragic defeat in history. I should look more into Kongsha's affairs in the future and see if he has a history of using books as his weapon. That should give me a clue as to whether he possesses the Library of Heaven's Path as well. In the end, this was only Zhongxian's hypothesis at the moment. He needed to look further into it to know for sure. Putting those miscellaneous thoughts at the back of his mind, Zhongxian focused his attention on deciphering the crux of the manual to Jiang Feifei and clarifying her doubts. By the time she had fully grasped the manual, it was already late at night. There's still some time before sunrise. Let me see if I can advance my soul cultivation so the aureate body realm. Knowing that it was still rather early, Zhongxian exhaled deeply before standing up. The main reason why he came to the Jiang clan was to temper his soul so that he could enter the otherworldly demon ancient sage corpse. Since he had already gathered the introspective convalescence realm and the aureate body realm Heaven's Path soul art, and he had the required cultivation resources on hand too, it would be good for him to make a breakthrough as soon as possible. Zhongxian had Jiang Fangyu prepare a silent residence for him. He entered the cultivation chamber of the residence and sat down. After which, he drew his primordial spirit out from his body and began conditioning himself. Alright, I should start. Once he felt that his condition had reached its peak, he flicked his hand, and the spiritual energy-rich cultivation resources he had taken with permission from the Jiang clan's treasure vault earlier fell all over the ground, emanating an invigorating aura. Gugugu. Spiritual energy began surging into Zhongxian's primordial spirit furiously. His aura was growing stronger at a visible pace, and within a tea's time, he had already reached the very peak of introspective convalescence realm, seemingly ready to make the final step forward at any moment. Thus, he attempted to make a breakthrough. However, after a few attempts, he found that the bottleneck limiting him was a little too resilient. Zhongxian analyzed with a frown, "It might be because I have just achieved a breakthrough to introspective convalescence realm and have yet to fully reinforce my soul cultivation yet, so my soul energy hasn't been fully condensed together yet." It had been less than half a day since he had reached introspective convalescence realm, so his soul energy hadn't fully settled down yet. He could attempt to force a breakthrough right now, but even if he were to succeed, this weaker foundation would surely come to haunt him in the future. The difficulty in advancing his cultivation had already gotten much harder ever since he reached Great Sage. He had no wish to further up the difficulty for himself. But still, will I really have to spend 2 to 3 days just to reinforce my soul cultivation? Zhongxian rubbed his temple in distress. 2 to 3 days just to reinforce a cultivation realm. That was too slow, too slow. With the perilous circumstances around him, he had to raise his cultivation as soon as possible. Otherwise, even with a weapon as powerful as the Dragonbone Divine Spear, he would still be unable to exert his full strength. If there's something I could use to compress my soul energy together, I would be able to do it much faster. At this point in time, a spark flashed across Zhongxian's mind as his eyes lit up in excitement. Right, the Seal of Souls. Without using the soul quintessence, the pressure the Seal of Souls could exert on his primordial spirit was immense, unbearable even. If he had to reinforce his soul cultivation alone, the rate which he would improve at was extremely slow. Without at least 3 days of effort, it would be difficult for him to fully reinforce the foundations for introspective convalescence realm. However, through using the pressure of the Seal of Souls, the process could be sped up significantly. Perhaps, he might even be able to finish the task by tonight. Go. With a flick of his hand, a seal materialized at the center of the room. As soon as it appeared, Zhongxian immediately felt intense pressure crushing down on him. It felt as if his primordial spirit would be compressed infinitesimally under the pressure. Without driving the soul quintessence, he slowly approached the Seal of Souls with his primordial spirit. Tzzzzzzzzzz. As if approaching a scorching inferno, his primordial spirit began corroding under the immense pressure, seemingly on the verge of dissipation. Heaven's Path Soul Art. Harumphing coldly, he began driving the Heaven's Path Soul Art, and his dissipating primordial spirit slowly began to stabilize. This was similar to how he had used the pressure from the Dragonbone Divine Spearback then to temper his primordial spirit. The theory behind introspective convalescence realm for soul cultivation was similar to that for Zhenqi cultivation. It focused on altering the basic underlying structure of a soul so as to make it more resilient and powerful. With the pressure, his soul energy swiftly condensed together, making his primordial spirit more and more compact and powerful. A vague golden glow was beginning to emanate from the surface of his primordial spirit, a sign that he was steadily advancing toward a breakthrough to the Aureate Body Realm. Is this the Aureate Body Realm? Noticing the golden glow from his primordial spirit, Zhongxian quickly inspected on the changes and found that the parts of his soul shrouded in golden glow was much more resilient as compared to the others. Resilient was a word rarely used to describe intangible and formless souls. However, after being suffused with the golden glow, the resilience of his soul had astonishingly surpassed the level of Saint Pinnacle artifacts. Incredible! Zhongxian remarked with an excited gleam in his eyes as he continued to temper his primordial spirit using the pressure from the Seal of Souls. 4 hours later, he finally came to a halt after a tough session of cultivation. His primordial spirit, which had become a little bloated after reaching introspective convalescence realm, had been fully compacted once more. At the same time, his disposition had undergone yet another change. From afar, he gave off a fleeting presence, similar to that of an unworldly deity. There was a fine line between great sage and sainthood. Traversing beyond this fine line meant a metamorphosis in one's level of existence. At this moment, Zhongxian's primordial spirit was streaked with golden lines. If he were to drive his prowess to its maximum potential, a brilliant burst of golden light would shine from him, giving him an appearance reminiscent to that of a Buddha. Continue. Knowing that he had already reinforced his soul cultivation to its limits, he kept the Seal of Souls and began furiously absorbing spiritual energy into his primordial spirit once more. Similarly, his soul cultivation also began advancing for greater heights too. Hong Long. There was a resounding buzz as the bottleneck limiting him and shredded apart. The golden lines streaking across his primordial spirit melted and shrouded his entire soul, giving off a golden glow that filled the entire room. Aureate Body Realm, reached. This is truly formidable. Sensing the changes in his primordial spirit, Zhongxian trembled in excitement. At his current level, he could execute soul traverse freely without fear that his primordial spirit would be harmed as a result of squeezing through space. It seems like Lu Chong has reached Aureate Body Realm as well. Zhongxian thought awkwardly. It had always bothered him how his students were able to advance their cultivation faster than him. While it could be partially credited to their unique constitutions and the resources they had at their disposal, it still left him feeling deeply frustrated. Hong Long Long. Just as Zhongxian's mind was wandering, thunderous rumblings suddenly echoed outside the room. Heading outside, he saw storm clouds congregating above the Jiang clan. Overwhelming energy was swiftly gathering in the vicinity. Lightning tribulation? Achieving a breakthrough in one's soul cultivation to Aureate Body Realm would induce a lightning tribulation too? Zhongxian's eyebrows shot up in astonishment. However, in the next moment, the Dragonbone Divine Spear wrapped around his waist suddenly exclaimed, "It isn't a lightning tribulation but a heavenly flame tribulation." Lightning tribulation served to temper one's primordial spirit, whereas heavenly flame tempers the aureate body. Heavenly flame tribulation? Zhongxian was startled for an instant before his face flushed in excitement. Wait a moment. Doesn't that mean that I would be able to resolve the innate fetal poison in advance? Chapter 1651 Empyrean Heavenly Flame. Kongsha had once said that in order to resolve the innate fetal poison, it would have to be seared with heavenly flames. He thought that this would require him to advance his junshi cultivation to great sage, but who could have thought that he would end up drawing it in with his soul cultivation? If he could make use of it to temper his physical body, wouldn't he be able to resolve the threat which had been worrying him over the past year once and for all? Will the heavenly flame tribulation sear my primordial spirit directly? Zhongxian asked the dragonbone divine spear anxiously. The Saint Ascension ordeal was divided into the soul ordeal, body ordeal, and heart ordeal. Given that the heavenly flame tribulation was also the retribution that the heavens brought upon the cultivators, would it come in the same order as well? Hearing the question, the dragonbone divine spear pondered for a moment before replying. There are 3 phases to the heavenly flame tribulation, namely scorching soul tribulation, scorching spirit tribulation, and scorching heart tribulation. With your prowess, you should be able to survive the scorching soul tribulation. However, I'm afraid that the same cannot be said about the scorching spirit tribulation and scorching heart tribulation. Even the slightest carelessness can easily result in the dissipation of your existence. This is especially so for the final scorching heart tribulation. Inner demons will attempt to break down your will, and once the will extinguishes, everything else goes to rest as well. If your physical body had reached Great Sage 2 Dan Aureate body realm, together with the formidable prowess of your primordial spirit, you might still be able to withstand the inner demons. However, in your current state, I'm afraid that it'll be difficult for you to oppose the inner demons with your primordial spirit itself. Countless soul oracles in the ancient era had died as a result of the heavenly flame tribulation. It was only those who were blessed with great luck and the utmost talent who managed to survive this ordeal. The dragonbone divine spear had witnessed Zhongxian refining his primordial spirit using the pressure exerted, so he was aware of the fact that the young man cultivated his soul as well. You mean to say that it would have been safer for me to challenge the heavenly flame tribulation if my junshi cultivation were to reach aureate body realm as well? Hearing the words of the dragonbone divine spear, Zhongxian asked. That's right. The body is much more formidable at fending off inner demons as compared to the soul. With the physical body bearing the brunt of the impact and the soul assisting by the side, the chances of overcoming the heavenly flame tribulation would be much higher. If you were to challenge it with just your primordial spirit itself. Honestly speaking, I don't personally know of anyone who has succeeded in doing so yet. The dragonbone divine spear flew out from Zhongxian's waist and remarked worriedly. As a member of the dragon tribe, there was no way it could allow its master, which it had found with great difficulty, to be burned to cinders. Otherwise, if others were to learn of the matter, how embarrassing it would be for him. Even though it was just a pile of bones now, it didn't mean that it didn't have any pride. My physical body is indeed rather lacking at the moment. Hearing those words, Zhongxian shook his head grimly. He hadn't acquired Kongsha's superior breakthrough method to advance his junshi cultivation introspective convalescence realm, so he couldn't afford to force a breakthrough right now. Besides, even if he were to make a breakthrough in his junshi cultivation right now, he would still be an entire realm away from reaching aureate body realm. He hadn't compiled the aureate body realm heaven's path divine art yet, so it wouldn't solve the quandary he was in. Let it come then. I would like to see how formidable this heavenly flame tribulation is. The dragonbone divine spear had once conquered the world by ancient sage Ran Cho's side. Even though it had lost much of its powers and memories after being sealed, its eye of discernment and worldly knowledge was still far superior to most cultivators in the world. Since it had said that the heavenly flame tribulation would be a difficult foe to deal with, it was likely that would indeed be the case. However, as a practitioner of the Heaven's Path soul art, he was an invincible existence amongst soul oracles of his level. The heavenly flame tribulation might have been powerful, but he was confident that he would be able to overcome it. If there were soul oracles who could survive the heavenly flame tribulation, surely I would be able to do so too. Hong long long. In the midst of his conversation, the ominous clouds in the sky had finally finished congregating together. Similar to the storm clouds of the lightning tribulation, the clouds of the heavenly flame tribulation were also pitch black in color. However, if one were to take a closer look, one would notice that the clouds were dancing around, reminiscent of flames. Even from a distance away, one could already feeling scorching heat blistering one's skin, and the air was gradually becoming intolerably arid. TSLA. A bundle of flames descended from the sky, aiming right for Zhongxian's primordial spirit. Unlike the conventional crimson color, the bundle of flames were pitch black in color, almost similar to ink. If not for the suffocating heat it was emanating, one could have mistaken it as a botch of ink floating in the air. This is the heavenly flame. Even before the flame even arrived, dimension rifts were beginning to surface around the area. A powerful aura burst forth from the flame, imposing tremendous pressure on those standing beneath it. Zhongxian felt his hairs standing on end. He had encountered many flames over the past year, facing even the most formidable earth flames. However, he had never met such an eerie and oppressive flame before. Black as if ink, it was devoid of the slightest radiance. Yet, the heat it exerted was so great that even space was unable to tolerate its existence. This was the heavenly flame. Was this really something that a soul oracle could withstand? Putting aside his primordial spirit, even his physical body, which he had already exceeded the resilience of an average Saint Pinnacle artifact, would melt upon contact with it. This isn't an ordinary heavenly flame but the Empyrean heavenly flame. While Zhongxian was overwhelmed by the frightening might commanded by the heavenly flame before him, the dragonbone divine spear was also trembling in disbelief. Empyrean heavenly flame? What is that? Zhongxian asked. Heavenly flame could be divided into various tiers too. The Tier 3 heavenly flame has a fiery crimson color, and it would be summoned by most cultivators during their aureate body ordeal. This is also the weakest heavenly flame of all. The Tier 2 heavenly flame takes on an ashen white color, and it's summoned only by the more formidable combat masters and master teachers. As for the Tier 1 heavenly flame, it's azure in color, and only cultivators who have cultivated the best cultivation technique and possess the purest junshi would be able to summon it. So far, the only ones I have seen who were able to do that were ancient sage Ran Qiu and the other direct disciples of Kongsha. Naturally, it goes without saying that the higher the heavenly flame's tier is, the more resilient the cultivator's aureate body would be after overcoming it. However, legend has it that there's an Empyrean heavenly flame which far surpasses the Tier 1 heavenly flame. It's also known as the Flame of Heaven's Path, and it's distinguished by its color of utmost darkness. As far as I know, Kongsha is the only one who has summoned the Flame of Heaven's Path and survived it. Furthermore, it was said to have only appeared when his junshi cultivation reached aureate body realm. How in the world did you manage to summon it here? Floating in the air in agitation, the eyes on the tip of the dragonbone divine spear flickered in horror. The Empyrean heavenly flame was a force of nature that destroyed all beings that stood in its path. Putting aside primordial spirits, even sempiternal realm cultivators would be burned to cinders in the face of its prowess. The young man had only achieved a breakthrough in his soul cultivation, so how did he end up summoning this fearsome heavenly flame here? It was difficult enough to overcome an ordinary heavenly flame, but the tribulation he had to face was actually that of the Empyrean heavenly flame. This was practically an impossible feat. Without a doubt, this was truly the worst card to draw at this moment. How would I know? Not expecting such an epic background to the heavenly flames he had summoned, Zhongxian cried in aghast. It should have just been an ordinary heavenly flame tribulation. Was there really a need for the world to give him such a special treat? Zhongxian felt deeply stifled inside, but he knew this wasn't the time to be fussing over it. Barely after gathering his strength, the black flame had already arrived before his primordial spirit and wrapped itself around it. Xiong xiong. As soon as the black flame came into contact with his primordial spirit immediately began burning up. Intense pain caused his face to distort awfully as his body began shuddering uncontrollably. He thought that it would be reminiscent to the lightning tribulation, where he would just have to endure it. However, The black flame was far more formidable than what he had expected. Even the slightest lapse in his concentration could cause his primordial spirit to be reduced to cinders, leaving nothing behind at all. Heaven's path soul art. Knowing that he had to make a move quickly, he gritted his teeth and gathered all of the energy he had to fend against the black flame. Wung wung. A brilliant golden light gushed out and enveloped his primordial spirit. His transparent primordial spirit was suddenly cased in a golden afterglow, contrasting him to be a massive Buddha idol. TZZZZZZ. The prowess of the golden light was formidable, but the black flame was even more potent. Even before coming into contact with the golden light, it had already torn the surrounding space into shreds, seemingly ready to drag Zhongxian into the midst of spatial turbulence. Seal. Without any hesitation, Zhongxian tapped his finger ahead and executed the prowess of his spatial quintessence. Wang. The ripped space swiftly settled down once more. However, the might of the black flame was still as formidable as before. It swiftly corroded the golden light around Zhongxian, dyeing it the color of black. Chapter 1652. Tempering the aureate body. At this rate, I'll really lose my life. Knowing that nothing would be left of him by the time the flames finished burning, Zhongxian swiftly drove the soul quintessence. Gathering his power, he sent a burst of soul energy right into the ball of black flame around him. As the burst of soul energy collided with the black flame, it swiftly scattered into countless seeds of fire. However, before Zhongxian could react, they had already gathered back together around him once more, continue their relentless assault on his primordial spirit. I'm able to forcefully split it apart, but the rate of regeneration of the black flame is simply too fast. Zhongxian analyzed grimly. The attack with his soul quintessence was a trial attack to see if soul energy would work on the black flame, and to be honest, he didn't think that it would be effective. Unfortunately, the black flame reconverged together too quickly for the attack to make much of a difference. Right. I can use the time quintessence. A thought came to Zhongxian's mind. No matter how quickly the black flame gathered together, it would require some time. As long as there was a lapse in time, he would be able to use the time quintessence against it. Break. Thus, he gathered his soul energy together to launch a powerful attack against the black flame. At the same time, he raised his finger and tapped the space in front of him lightly. Wang. Everything around him suddenly grew incredibly slow. The black flame slowly split into countless seeds of fire, and when they finally reached a certain distance away from him, they began to reconverge together in the middle. Scatter apart. Pushing his mind to its limits, Zhongxian scattered his soul energy into each of the smaller seeds of fire and pushed them further away from one another. Barely after that was done, the time acceleration came to an end. As expected, the searing sensation he felt on his primordial spirit alleviated considerably. The power of the black flame does indeed reduce accordingly to scale. Zhongxian thought as he heaved a sigh of relief. Even if they were of the same temperature, a blazing inferno was surely much more menacing force as compared to just a couple sparks of fire. After continue the process several times, the black flame was finally split into 1/100th of its original size. Finally, the searing sensation had been reduced to a level which Zhongxian's primordial spirit could tolerate. Time, space, and soul, these are the three quintessences that are the hardest to grasp. He's probably the only one in the world who has managed to master the three of them. Not expecting to see such a maneuver, the Dragonbone Divine Spear muttered in a daze beneath its breath. When it first saw the Empyrean heavenly flame descending from the heavens, it had no doubt that the young man would be reduced to cinders. Who could have thought that the young man would actually be able to find a feasible way to cope with the Empyrean heavenly flame through the skillful manipulation of those three powerful quintessences? However, this isn't the end of the aureate body ordeal yet. Even if he's able to withstand the scorching soul tribulation, it would still be hard for him to overcome the scorching spirit tribulation and scorching heart tribulation. The Dragonbone Divine Spear shook its head, clearly unconfident in the young man's ability to withstand this trial. This is much better. Oblivious to the Dragonbone Divine Spear's worries, Zhongxian's pounding heart finally calmed down after he found that the searing sensation on his primordial spirit had reduced to a level where he could cope with. He couldn't help but be thankful that he had mastered the spatial, time, and soul quintessences. Otherwise, he would really have been helpless before his current situation. 1. A golden light shone brilliantly on the surface of his primordial spirit, keeping the many seeds of fire scattered equally on the outside. It had reduced the intensity of the flame, and the excruciating pain on his primordial spirit had diminished significantly too. As he continued driving his soul energy, the golden light grew brighter and brighter. Whenever the black seeds of fire began gathering once more, he would use his soul quintessence to tear them apart once more. Of course, it was an extremely tiring process, but fortunately, he was still able to cope with his powerful primordial spirit. Let me try using the heat of the heavenly flames to drive away the innate fetal poison. Seeing that he was finally out of danger for the time being, Zhongxian knew that his chance had come. This was a rare opportunity for him to try driving out the innate fetal poison within him. As long as the innate fetal poison remained unresolved, the countdown on his lifespan wouldn't stop. Since he had finally found a chance to take a breather, it was a good timing for him to give it a try. Gathering his consciousness together, he threw out yet another burst of soul energy and divided a bean-sized seed of fire into sesame seed-sized ones. With his will, he slowly nudged the divided seed of fire toward the area where the innate fetal poison was. After which, he channeled the searing energy in from the seed of flame through the golden light and into his primordial spirit. Zzzzzzzzzzzzz. A heart-wrenching pain immediately assaulted Zhongxian, but he gritted his teeth and bore with it. If this was the pain he had to go through in order to resolve the innate fetal poison, he would just have to pull through it. However, a moment later, a deep frown appeared on his forehead. Why isn't it working? Kongsha had once said that the heavenly flames could destroy the innate fetal poison, but to his astonishment, the searing energy from the seed of flame didn't seem to faze the innate fetal poison in the slightest. It was almost as if the innate fetal poison was impervious to it. Or, could it be that I'll have to pull the entire seed of flame right into my primordial spirit? Zhongxian narrowed his eyes in horror. He had only channeled the searing energy from the black flame into his body previously. The black flame itself still remained guarded by the golden light. In a sense, it was similar to scratching one's leg through one's shoes. Could this be the reason why the innate fetal poison wasn't affected by it? But even if that was truly the case, it was true that his primordial spirit wasn't vulnerable to heat, unlike ordinary soul oracles. However, the black flame was no ordinary flame either. It was the Empyrean heavenly flame, the strongest heavenly flame of all. If he were to draw something that could even destroy a sempiternal realm expert into his primordial spirit, the chances would be that he would die before he could even eliminate the innate fetal poison. Forget it. At this rate, I'm bound for death anyway. Knowing that he wouldn't be able to rest easy as long as the innate fetal poison remained in his body, Zhongxian didn't hesitate for long before making up his mind. Driving the Heaven's Path soul art furiously, he continued to uphold the barrier of golden light around his primordial spirit to fend off the black flame. But at the same time, he opened a small gap to take in a seed of flame into his primordial spirit. Tzzzzzzzzzz. As if fresh meat being pressed on top of burning charcoals, a deafening sizzling sound echoed in the air. This was a pain which Zhongxian had never experienced before. It felt as if something was consuming him from within, leaving him scrunching around uncontrollably. Gradually, he could feel his consciousness seeping away from him. He hurriedly lowered his head and saw the areas which had come into direct contact with the seed of flame had already been reduced to a hole. At the same time, the parts of his primordial spirit around the hole was visibly much more sparse than before. At this rate, it was a matter of time before his primordial spirit dissipated for good. How am I supposed to do this? Zhongxian's complexion warped in despair. He had only taken in a sesame seed-sized flame, and it had already inflicted grievous wounds upon his primordial spirit. If he were to absorb any more than that, he would really be reduced into a wisp of smoke. What should I do? He was still thinking that he would be able to overcome the heavenly flame easily and resolve the innate fetal poison while he was at it. However, it was as if the difficulty of the game had suddenly switched from easy mode to hell mode. I have no choice now. If a sesame-sized seed of flame wouldn't work out, I'll just have further divide till it's the size of the tip of a needle. Zhongxian clenched his fists determinedly. The division of the black flame would reduce the intensity of the heat significantly. Since that was the case, he would just have to continue dividing it till it was at a level where his primordial spirit could endure. With such a thought in mind, Zhongxian continued using his soul energy to further divide a seed of black flame. With his level of cultivation, even for a speck of dirt, he could still easily see the bumps on it through his spiritual perception. With his sharp control over his soul energy, he was able to accomplish this fine maneuver with ease. After 3 more divisions, the sesame-sized seed of flame was finally reduced to roughly the size of a needle tip. Even with such a small size, its imposing presence still gave one no room for doubt that it was capable of melting everything in the world. Absorb. Zhongxian carefully guided one of these needle tip-sized seed of flame toward his primordial spirit and swiftly absorbed it in. Tzzzzzzzzzz. Upon seeing the seed of fire, the innate fetal poison hurriedly retreated out of fear. However, it was unfortunate that the seed of fire was too small. Even though the innate fetal poison was frightful of it, it was incapable of dealing any substantial damage to the innate fetal poison. It's effective. I need to press on. With such a thought in mind, Zhongxian absorbed another needle tip-sized seed of flame into his primordial spirit, thus forcing the innate fetal poison to retreat in terror once again. However, it didn't take long for the small seed of flame to extinguish too. My primordial spirit seems to have grown stronger. He realized that after absorbing 2 seeds of flame, the parts of his primordial spirit where the seeds of flame had passed through had grown much more resilient, as if they had been tempered 1,000 times over. At the same time, the golden glow emanating from those areas became much more brilliant too. The heavenly flame is indeed able to temper the aureate body. Zhongxian's eyes lit up in excitement. Let me put aside the innate fetal poison for now. By the time I have tempered my entire primordial spirit, that fellow wouldn't be able to run even if he wanted to. Trembling in agitation, Zhongxian was just about to crush the other seeds of flame into smaller portions in order to temper his entire primordial spirit when the storage ring on his physical body suddenly shook. Following which, a figure materialized before him. He was Zhongxian's clone. For some reason, this fellow had come out of the myriad ant-hive nest of his own accord. You can't even handle a heavenly flame properly? I can't bring myself to look on anymore. Shooting a disdainful look at Zhongxian, the clone dashed right into the ominous clouds above. Hong long long. As if in retaliation to the clone's aggressive actions, a bundle of heavenly flame descended from the heavens. However, the clone simply opened his mouth wide and swallowed it into his body. Zhongxian's cheeks twitched. Chapter 1653 Flight of the Innate Fetal Poison. At this moment, Zhongxian really felt like crying. If there was a hole he could dive into right now, he would do so without the slightest hesitation. He had to execute his time, spatial, and soul quintessences, and even so, he only managed to absorb 2 needle tip-sized seed of flames so far. Furthermore, he even felt accomplished for being able to do so. But in the next moment, his clone appeared and swallowed an entire bundle of it whole. Furthermore, what the heck was with that fellow's expression? Was that fellow putting up an attitude with him? Was that fellow looking down on him? Screw you. You are only a clone. You get it. A clone. Which part of being a clone do you not understand? Can you open your eyes and realize that I'm the main body? There's an unbreachable gap in the standing between the main body and the clone. Realize that. Thinking of standing, Zhongxian's complexion turned even more awful. He had challenged that fellow ever since he appeared, but it seemed like every fight had ended with a tragic loss on his part. In terms of standing, it did really seem like he had none of that before his clone. In the midst of wallowing in his sorrow, Zhongxian suddenly raised his head and looked at his clone with unreadable eyes. For the first time, he felt that it wouldn't be so bad to see his clone being torched to death by those black flames. But contrary to his wish, what he saw was the other party burping leisurely, delicious hula, after which, he dived right into the clouds and vanished. What? Watching the entire sight from start to end, the dragonbone divine spear rattled in stupefaction. It was almost as if it had used up its entire lifetime worth of surprise today. The fact that its master had a clone wasn't really a big deal. Many experts had forged a clone out of themselves, and even Kongsha had one as well. However, this was the first time he had seen one which was even cockier than its master. More importantly, that was the Empyrean heavenly flame which even it was afraid of. Yet, not only was that fellow unfrightened by it, he even charged right into its midst. Was he not afraid of being burned down to cinders? In his moment of shock, he saw a pair of thighs poking out from the clouds, and a hand was scrubbing it leisurely. Pilipala. A huge bundle of black flame was being spread equally over a body by a hand, and the sound of deafening explosions could be from above heard now and then. However, it didn't seem like the owner of the body was terrified at all. On the contrary, he was releasing pleasured moans instead, clearly enjoying the entire process. This. Is he still a human? The dragonbone divine spear cowered in fear. To be honest, it was still a little apprehensive as to whether it had made the right choice submitting to Zhongxian or not. After all, it was the personal weapon of the renowned ancient sage Ran Qiu, a legendary existence in history. However, after seeing the prowess Zhongxian's clone, it suddenly felt its pride being utterly crushed. If even the clone wasn't being choosy with his master, what rights did it have to be choosy? With such a thought in mind, the dragonbone divine spear turned its gaze toward Zhongxian and saw the latter trembling with a livid look on his face. Who's afraid of who? Me. Su. Before the dragonbone divine spear could process what was going on, it saw the primordial spirit of its master dashing right into the clouds, vanishing from sight within the blink of an eye. The dragonbone divine spear was utterly frenzied. The reason why the clone of its master dared to charge into the clouds could be attributed to the superior material used to make it, but as for its master, what in the world was he planning to do charging in with just his primordial spirit? Was he tired of living? If he were to die, should I acknowledge his clone as my master instead? The dragonbone divine spear pondered seriously as it began planning out its contingency plans. How could Zhongxian possibly tolerate being looked at so contemptuously by his clone? Without any hesitation, he dashed right into the clouds. Boom! Before he knew it, countless bundles of flames were already gushing in his direction. My clone does have a much stronger body than mine, especially since he's made out of the 9 hearts lotus. However, in terms of souls, he's on the same footing as me. Since he's able to endure the black flame, I should be able to do it too. It might have been a spontaneous decision on his part to charge into the tribulation clouds, but it definitely wasn't a reckless one. He had already calculated the risks and decided that it was feasible before heading in. After obtaining the subsequent levels of the Heaven's Path soul art, it was automatically shared with his clone when he entered the myriad anthive nest. While he had been cultivating his soul, his clone had been doing the same as well. In other words, his clone had also achieved a breakthrough to Aureate body realm as well, just like him. Since his clone was able to withstand the black flame, why couldn't he do it too? He must have missed out some crucial information. Thus, he began to observe his clone not too far away. His clone was shrouded in the midst of black flames, doing backstroke at one moment, front crawl in the other, dog paddle in the next, and lying leisurely in the shape after. It was as if he was out for a holiday, enjoying himself. The black flame continued to burn around him. Soon, his body began to emanate golden light, and his primordial spirit also grew significantly more resilient than before. I get it. Zhongxian's eyes widened as realization dawned upon him. The dragonbone divine spear said that the Aureate body ordeal is divided into the scorching soul tribulation, scorching spirit tribulation, and scorching heart tribulation. I always thought that the scorching soul tribulation is the very first phase, and the others will appear subsequently. That could have been true for ordinary heavenly flame tribulations, but for the Empyrean heavenly flame, all 3 appear at once. The heat of the black flame is indeed formidable to the point that it's nearly unbearable, but it hasn't reached the level where it's completely intolerable to me yet. After all, I have cultivated my soul with the Heaven's Path soul art, and my primordial spirit has been tempered by many lightning tribulations. In terms of resilience, my primordial spirit already on par with most great sage artifacts. However, I was fearful of the black flame. I used all kinds of ways to avoid absorbing it. This must have been a test of my determination. My clone was able to charge unhesitantly in because he had absolute confidence in his physical body, and without fear in his heart. The prowess of the black flame is significantly reduced. This is similar to how walking in the dark could be a frightful experience to those who hold fear in their hearts. They would constantly check on their surroundings, fearing that someone would do them harm. However, if one were to tread forward with an open mind, the night would no longer be as terrifying of an entity to one anymore. As these thoughts flashed across Zhongxian's mind, he opened his primordial spirit wide in the face of the incoming bundles of black flame. At the same time, he also dissipated the golden light around his primordial spirit, leaving himself completely vulnerable to the black flames. It was as if he had already given up on himself. Tzzzzzz. The flames began to sear his primordial spirit. Yet, due to his calmer state of mind, the black flame wasn't as excruciating as before. Instead, under the tempering of the flames, his primordial spirit was swiftly being tempered. It's indeed as I have expected. Seeing that it was effective, Zhongxian heaved a sigh of relief. The heavenly flame was a mystical force of nature. It didn't just sear one's body but one's spirit and state of mind as well. The more afraid he was of the black flame, the greater its prowess would be. That was because its target wasn't just his primordial spirit but his mind and consciousness. Fear made one's mind vulnerable, making it easy to plant thoughts and delusions into one. And for cultivators of their level, thoughts were no longer mere thoughts anymore. Thus, when he abandoned his fear and embraced the black flame, the prowess of the black flame diminished instead. Nevertheless, despite the diminished prowess of the black flame, he still felt stabbing pain assault his primordial spirit, leaving him feeling as if it would be torn apart at any moment. I should focus on tempering my primordial spirit for the time being. Despite the pain, Zhongxian opened his primordial spirit wide and frenziedly absorbed the flames from the surroundings. Boom! The flames entering his primordial spirit swam around it relentlessly, tempering it with the amazing heat it was emanating. His primordial spirit gradually turned completely golden in color, and the light it emanated was growing brighter and brighter. It was almost as if he was turning into a living Buddha. Let me see if I can eradicate the innate fetal poison now. Upon feeling that his primordial spirit had gotten used to the temperature of the black flame, Zhongxian began concentrating the black flame toward the innate fetal poison. Gu. As if having encountered something terrifying, the innate fetal poison retreated fearfully. Zhongxian's eyes lit up in response and continued driving the black flame toward the innate fetal poison, cornering it. Jijiji. With an alarmed shriek, the innate fetal poison finally reached its limits and dashed out of his primordial spirit. It escaped in the form of black smoke before vanishing completely from sight. The innate fetal poison had already gained its own consciousness, or else there was no way it could possibly escape from the onslaught of the heavens pathshunchi. Finally, seeing that the innate fetal poison had finally escaped, Zhongxian heaved a sigh of relief. The innate fetal poison had been a time bomb to him ever since he discovered its existence. He had lived his life in fear that he would die at any moment, and it had been his greatest motivation to continue cultivating as well. But today, he was finally free of this burden. Chapter 1654 The Arrogant Innate Fetal Poison. After the innate fetal poison escaped, Zhongxian made use of the black flames to temper his primordial spirit for a while longer before the dark clouds gradually dispersed. With this, he had successfully survived the heavenly flame tribulation. After overcoming the widely feared Great Sage Tu Dan Oriat body ordeal, Zhongxian's primordial spirit had turned completely golden. Even a snap of his fingers created a metallic reverberation. If one did not know that it was a primordial spirit in advance, one would surely have thought that it was another normal body. After tempering my physical body with the heavenly flame, my primordial spirit is starting to take a form reminiscent of a physical body. It's no wonder Lu Chong is able to stand his ground even against those 9-star master teachers. Zhongxian thought in agitation. Primordial spirits could change their forms according to the individual's will. If one did not want to be seen, even with a shiny golden exterior, a primordial spirit could still become invisible to the naked eye. If one wanted to be noticed, a primordial spirit could become as tough as a weapon, such that even experts of the same caliber would not be able to tell that it was actually a soul. It was no wonder soul oracles were viewed in deference in the ancient era. Even if just a small handful of them were able to clear the aureate body ordeal, those that succeeded indubitably wielded far greater prowess compared to ordinary cultivators. More importantly, the lifespan of soul oracles far exceeded that of ordinary cultivators. Even if a cultivator nourished their flesh with their junchi and altered their cells after reaching the introspective convalescence realm, they would still only be able to live for 1,500 years before finally meeting their end. However, soul oracles were different. They could easily live up to 3,000 years and even more. However, there's a fatal flaw to soul oracles too, and that's the 5 soul declines. There were many advantages to being a soul oracle, but equally great were the disadvantages. The greatest hurdle for the soul oracles was the 5 soul declines. Fortunately, the Heaven's Path soul art that Zhongxian cultivated had made him impervious to this problem, so he did not have to worry about it. While he was still in awe over his improvements, he turned to look at his clone and saw that his body was golden. At the same time, his soul was also fully tempered. A powerful aura drifted off from his body, hinting at the frightening prowess he possessed. Aureate body realm consummation? Zhongxian's lips twitched. He had ignited Kong Shi's blood droplet and utilized the prowess of a sempiternal realm consummation expert before. As such, even though he had never cultivated the realms himself, he still had a rough idea as to what the indicators for the various realms were. His clone was golden all over, such that even his pupils had taken on a golden color. Without a doubt, he had already cultivated the aureate body to perfection. To think that he would actually be able to advance his cultivation so quickly. Zhongxian clutched his aching heart tightly. His clone sure knew how to traumatize him. He had thought that he had been improving fairly quickly, but this fellow turned out to be even faster than him. You should return to the myriad ant hive nest for the time being. Zhongxian instructed his clone to return and reinforce his cultivation. On the other hand, he descended from the sky and returned to the ground. Waiwayu actually overcame the tribulation of the Empyrean heavenly flame. The dragonbone divine spear shuddered uncontrollably as it spoke. It had thought that its master would surely be reduced to ash facing such a powerful heavenly flame tribulation, but who would have thought that he would actually be able to overcome it so quickly? Was this still a feat a human was capable of? Yeah. Paying no heed to the dragonbone divine spear's astonishment, Zhongxian chuckled softly in response. He was just about to return to his body when he narrowed his eyes in astonishment. What's going on? His physical body sitting on the ground had its face turned dark, and black smoke was rising from its head. It was trembling non-stop, as if being put through some kind of excruciating pain. Some kind of black smoke escaped from the dark clouds earlier and dived into your body. I thought that it was the remnants of your primordial spirit, so I didn't stop it. The dragonbone divine spear said awkwardly. On the other hand, black lines streaked across Zhongxian's face. Do I look dead to you? Just because you are a skeleton doesn't mean that you should judge everyone by your standard. Besides, how in the world does a dissipated primordial spirit return to its body? Knowing that it was pointless to waste his breath with this sack of bones, Zhongxian quickly dived his primordial spirit back into his body. Shortly after he opened his eyes once more, his face twitched in horror. He nearly exploded on the spot. The innate fetal poison that he had just driven out of his primordial spirit was currently resting lazily within his physical body. When he swept his primordial spirit across it, it even greeted him leisurely, as if meeting an old friend. He had thought that he had managed to clear the innate fetal poison for good, but who would have thought that it would slip out from his primordial spirit just to return to his physical body? Did it think that it was simply moving homes? To slip from his body into his soul, and now from his soul back into his body. Do I look like someone to be trifled with? With an awful look on his face, Zhongxian channeled his Heaven's Path Shenqi right toward the innate fetal poison. Die. It was out of fear for the Heaven's Path Shenqi that it had been forced to slip into his soul from his physical body. Since it dared to return to his body, he would just have to crush it. Hong long long. In a short instant, the Heaven's Path Shenqi collided with the innate fetal poison, forcefully pushing it back. However, the next instant, the innate fetal poison dived right into the surge of Heaven's pathshanchi. Hoo. It began swimming leisurely within the Heaven's pathshanchi, just like his clone did in the midst of the black flames earlier. Zhong Xian was taken aback. The innate fetal poison should have been extremely fearful of the Heaven's pathshanchi. Its arrival should have scared it into hiding, so how could it be swimming within it? Zhong Xian's heartbeat skipped a beat. Could it be that it has upgraded after experiencing the heavenly flame tribulation, such that it's no longer afraid of the Heaven's pathshanchi anymore? The innate fetal poison had fled in the face of the black flames, but it had still been seared for quite a while before it managed to get away. It could not be that the short moment of searing had put it through a metamorphosis, such that it did not fear even the Heaven's pathshanchi anymore. As a poison master, he knew that there were quite a few poisons in the world that could be upgraded with time. If that was truly the case, he would be in great trouble. It was due to the suppression of his Heaven's pathshanchi that it did not dare wreak havoc in the past. Without anything to suppress it now, if it started wreaking havoc right now or even blew up entirely, he would be doomed. Zhong Xian quickly tried a few more times, but it seemed like his zhenqi was really no longer effective against the innate fetal poison. Let me see if I can suppress it using my primordial spirit. He began driving his primordial spirit toward the innate fetal poison in the hope that it would be able to subdue it. In face of the approaching soul, the innate fetal poison swiftly retreated in fear. Oh! It must be because my primordial spirit has been tempered by the heavenly flames and thus still contains remnants of it, so the innate fetal poison is still rather fearful of my soul. Earlier, the Empyrean heavenly flame had tempered his primordial spirit. Similar to how absorbing the energy in lightning tribulations would suffuse his primordial spirit with lightning, his primordial spirit was now infused with the might of the Empyrean heavenly flame as well. Due to that, his soul was able to induce fear in the innate fetal poison. Just that. He needed to harmonize his soul together with his physical body. He could not possibly constantly use his soul to suppress the innate fetal poison. Let me see if I can drive it out of my body. Zhong Xian gritted his teeth and began to corner the innate fetal poison. A moment later, a look of consternation surfaced. Cr*P, it stuck. It was true that he was able to alter the size of his primordial spirit after comprehending the spatial quintessence of sealing, but there was still a limit to the extent that he could do so. In face of the pursuit of his primordial spirit, the innate fetal poison swiftly slipped into the thinnest meridian within his body, such that even his primordial spirit was unable to squeeze in. If he squeezed in, his meridians could explode, and there would be severe consequences. As soon as his primordial spirit retreated, the innate fetal poison slipped out of the tiny meridian and danced gleefully in triumph. Unable to stand the innate fetal poison's arrogance, Zhong Xian immediately sent his primordial spirit back in, but the innate fetal poison simply slipped back into the meridian to hide. The process repeated itself several times. It was as if the innate fetal poison was provoking him. I am out. I am in. I am out again. I am in again. Ha ha ha, try to catch me if you can. You'd better not mess around. Otherwise, even at the risk of destroying my physical body, I'll crush you to death. Zhong Xian harumphed coldly as he fused his primordial spirit back with his physical body. He used his Heaven's pathshanchi to seal the meridian in order to prevent that fellow from messing around before rubbing his glabella in frustration. This is really the worst. Chapter 1655 Pummeled by the clone. It looks like I'll have to raise my zhenqi cultivation as soon as possible. Judging from how arrogant the innate fetal poison was, there was no saying when it would act up. He had thought that he would be able to kill it through the heavenly flame tribulation summoned by his soul, but who could have thought that he would only end up deepening the trouble he was in? He really had to raise his zhenqi cultivation as soon as possible so as to draw in a heavenly flame tribulation for his body as well. This way, with the combined prowess of both his soul and his body, the innate fetal poison would surely be eradicated once and for all. Alright, the matter with the Jiang clan has been resolved, so I should head back and resolve the conflict between the Luo clan and the Zhong clan soon. Afterward, I should head to the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters. He would have to pay the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters a visit and find Kong Shi's superior breakthrough method in order to advance his Zhenqi cultivation. Otherwise, who knew how long it would take for him to make a breakthrough? But before I return to the Zhong clan, I should get to forging the otherworldly demon ancient sage corpse first. With his primordial spirit reaching the aureate body realm, his prowess had been enhanced manyfold. With his current strength, he should be able to forge the corpse into a soulless metal humanoid and put it to use. With such a thought in mind, he excitedly dived into the myriad ant-hive nest, and after finding an empty clearing, he flicked his wrist. Peng! The corpse fell onto the ground, creating a huge depression around it. Zhong Xian drew his primordial spirit out from his glabella and approached the corpse. Tzzzzzzzz. The overwhelming pressure emanated by the corpse assaulted his primordial spirit, making it difficult for him to even advance a single step. Wang. His primordial spirit emanated a brilliant golden glow, and the pressure immediately alleviated considerably. He began making his way toward the corpse. Hu. He successfully dived into the corpse. Huge. As soon as Zhong Xian entered the corpse, he found himself within a vast room that there was no end to. His enormous primordial spirit seemed to be nothing more than a toy there, not even worth a mention. In comparison to this, his physical body seemed like a straw cottage before a royal palace. He took a seat and began using the method to forge soulless metal humanoids to slowly refine the body, harmonizing it together with his primordial spirit. Some time later, he stood up once more. I have already successfully forged a soulless metal humanoid. All right. Let's see if I can fight with it. Zhong Xian thought with gleaming eyes. Typically speaking, soulless metal humanoid should have been made out of living beings so as to ensure greater compatibility with one's soul. However, through the alterations that he had made with the Library of Heaven's Path, he was still barely able to forge one out of the ancient sage corpse as well. Nevertheless, the soulless metal humanoid's compatibility with souls would still be slightly lower, resulting in a lower precision in control. Jeji. Using his full strength, Zhong Xian slowly controlled the ancient sage corpse to rise to its feet, raise its legs, and slowly take a few steps forward. After conducting a few simple basic movements, Zhong Xian's face twitched speechlessly. The soulless metal humanoid was simply too demanding on his soul energy. Despite taking only 3 steps, a great half of the soul energy of his aureate body realm primordial spirit was already depleted. At this rate, putting aside battling, it was questionable whether he could even launch a fist or not. I guess I'll have to give it a try to know. Gritting his teeth, he gathered his remaining soul energy, and the massive ancient sage corpse clenched its fist and thrust it forward. Voila! The space in the myriad ant-hive nest immediately shook intensely, causing a deafening ripping sound to echo in the air. It was as if someone had torn the fabric of the world, revealing pitch-black cracks beneath. Incredible! Seeing how the folded space that he had reinforced time and time again had nearly been destroyed by a single punch, Zhong Xian could not help but fall into a daze. While maneuvering the ancient sage corpse was extremely taxing on his soul energy, there was no doubt that the prowess that it wielded was tremendous. After all the effort that Zhong Xian had put into reinforcing the myriad ant-hive nest, even with the ignition of Kong Shi's blood droplet and the dragonbone divine spear in hand, it would be difficult for him to tear this folded space apart. Yet, a simple punch from the ancient sage had nearly undone all of his hard work. This effectively meant that no matter how powerful a cultivator was, as long as he had not traversed the boundary to become an ancient sage yet, he would still be reduced to dust under a single punch from an ancient sage. There was truly a huge leap in prowess between great sage and ancient sage. With this soulless metal humanoid, his safety would be guaranteed as long as he did not encounter any ancient sages. Even if he did encounter an ancient sage, he still had another golden page with him. Following which, he would have yet another ancient sage corpse for him to forge a soulless metal humanoid out of. With this, what do I have to fear? Zhong Xian burst into hearty laughter. He drew his primordial spirit out of the soulless metal humanoid and absorbed several herbs to replenish his soul energy. After that, he re-entered the ancient sage corpse, placed his arms on his hips, and bellowed provocatively, "Clone, get your ass out here." His clone was in the midst of reinforcing his cultivation when he heard the bellow and flew out. "Come, let me test this on you." Without any regards to his clone's response, Zhongxian snickered sinisterly and threw a punch right over. On the other hand, his clone did not expect that the main body would have already gained control over this ancient sage corpse and shuddered in fright. He realized that it would be too late for him to dodge, so he quickly protected himself with a punch of his own. Peng! Su! The clone was sent flying into the distance before vanishing completely from sight. Ha 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 ha! Zhongxian laughed heartily. All along, he had suffered greatly during the duels with his clone. This was his long-awaited comeback, and it left him feeling deeply exhilarated. Ha! The next time my clone dares brag before me, I'll feed him a punch from my soulless metal humanoid. As exhilarating teaching his clone a lesson was, he nearly depleted all of his soul energy after executing a single punch. Thus, he quickly drew his primordial spirit out of the ancient sage corpse and back into his body. Just as he was about to retrieve some items to replenish his soul energy, he saw his clone dashing back with an infuriated look on his face. "How dare you punch me? Are you tired of living?" On the verge of exploding from rage, the clone threw a fist at Zhongxian without the slightest hesitation. Upon seeing this, Zhongxian's face warped in horror. "What? It's not me. The ancient sage corpse is the one who hit you. Alright, fine, I admit that it's me, but at least wait till I recover and return back to the corpse first." Corpse your head. How could the clone possibly wait for Zhongxian to recover and return to the corpse? Peng 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 peng. 10 minutes later, a swollen-faced Zhongxian lay on the floor with tears streaming down his face. He had a desolate look on his face, reminiscent of someone who had been ravaged all over. What the heck was this? It was already a horrible day for him, with the innate fetal poison sneaking back into his physical body and acting all gleefully before him. On top of that, he still had to be pummeled by his clone. All of a sudden, he felt like his life was extremely bleak. He felt like a candle in the midst of a furious gale, constantly on the verge of being extinguished. Anyway, he left the myriad ant-hive nest and returned to the room with his back slumped miserably. Driving his Heaven's Path Shenchi, he swiftly recovered from his injuries before walking out of the room. It was not as if this was the first day knowing that his clone was an abusive subordinate, prone to resorting to violence at any moment. At the very most, he would just have to stay out of the other party's way in the future. It was already afternoon outside. After settling some administrative matters with Jiang Fangyu, Zhongxian took out the Dragonbone Divine Spear, opened a dimension rift, and left the Jiang clan. Before long, he was already back at the Zhong clan. It had been an entire day since he left the Zhong clan. As soon as he returned back to his personal residence, he quickly called Sun Qiong over and asked, "What's the current situation?" Before leaving, he had instructed Sun Qiong to pay close attention to the movement of the Zhong clan and the Luo clan. A day might not have been long, but it was not a short amount of time either. Surely the two clans would not suddenly come to blows with one another in his absence, would they? The situation between the two clans is still relatively calm. As the head of the Luo clan isn't back yet, those from the Luo clan are still lying low for the time being, Sun Qiong quickly explained. The motive behind the Luo clan's grand march to the Zhong clan was so as to return the humiliation that they had suffered. However, they could not do it alone given the limits of their abilities. Thus, they could only bank on their powerful clan head to redress their grievances. As such, till their clan head finally returned, they would not dare make a move recklessly. That's a relief. Seeing that nothing major had happened yet, Zhongxian heaved a sigh of relief. He had Sun Qiong head off, and after a moment of contemplation, he began warping his appearance once more. He really had to say that the disguise amulet that Luo Ruoxin had given him was truly a handy tool. He could activate it whenever he wanted to, and that was how he had managed to disguise himself as Jiang Fangyu and fooled all of the elders. Under the effects of the disguise amulet, his appearance, soul aura, bloodline, and even cultivation realm would appear to be identical in the eyes of the outsiders. Of course, if a battle broke out, the difference would immediately have become apparent. After all, the disguise amulet was only a disguising tool in the end. Since the Luo clan had been waiting for the arrival of their clan head, It would not be polite to keep them waiting for too long. However, as for the fashion which their clan head would arrive in, that was something worth pondering about. In any case, he was ready to give the Luo clan a huge surprise. Chapter 1656 Luo Tianya vs Zhongxian. An air of vexation floated in the guest rooms of the Zhong clan. Say, where did our clan head go? Why isn't he back yet? First Elder Luo Qingchen broke the heavy silence in the room. Who knows? Our clan head seems to be a really carefree person, going wherever he wants as he pleases. Hi. We are supposed to be challenging the Zhong clan to re-establish the honor of our Luo clan, but somehow, it looks as if we are sponging off the Zhong clan instead. How frustrating. It's the same for me too. Whenever I walk around the area, I would see the members of the Zhong clan directing skeptical looks at me. Honestly, I don't even know I should deal with that anymore. Two elders of the Luo clan spoke up in exasperation. Have you not heard of the recent news? Nangong Yuanfeng and Tantai Zhenqing of the 100 Schools of Philosophers came to challenge the Zhong clan, but they ended up being defeated by a student whom Zhongxian simply offered some pointers on the spot. Could our clan head have fled in fear after hearing that news? Luo Ganzhen rubbed his glabella. They had marched here with an imposing momentum built up from the defeat of the 100 Schools of Philosophers. They felt that victory was already in their pockets, so they intentionally made a huge fuss out of this matter. Yet, as soon as they arrived, they heard that Nangong Yuanfeng and the others had visited the Zhong clan too and were forced to retreat in defeat. To make things worse, the one who had made a move wasn't Zhongxian. It was Zhongxian's student from the side family whom he had barely offered a couple of pointers to. Upon learning of the news, those of the Luo clan couldn't help but feel a little unsettled. If even a student taught by Zhongxian was so powerful, they couldn't begin to imagine just how powerful the person in question was. At this point, they couldn't help but recall the huge commotion that had happened in the Empire Alliance. Back then, even Sword Saint Xing had fallen in defeat to Zhongxian. Would their clan head really be able to defeat that monster of a person? As such thoughts weighed down their minds, the atmosphere grew even gloomier. Actually, I'm feeling really conflicted right now. On one hand, I really wish our clan head would appear as soon as possible. On the other hand, I don't know if it's a good idea for our clan head to come. The moment he's here, the duel would definitely have to go on. It's one thing if he wins, but if he were to lose, the Luo clan's dignity would be utterly crushed. An elder said. They had marched imposingly to the Zhong clan, effectively letting the entire world know that they would be challenging the Zhong clan to a duel. If they were to be forced in defeat, the Luo clan would really become a laughingstock for the world. Actually, I'm thinking the same too. A couple of elders voiced their agreement. But it would be even more embarrassing to us if he doesn't appear at all, another voice exclaimed anxiously. The crowd fell in silence once more. Indeed. It was embarrassing to be defeated, but it would be even more so if their challenger didn't appear from the start to the end. They had come here to find trouble with the Zhong clan, but they ended up finding themselves being cornered instead. With the current state of affairs, they didn't know what they should do anymore. Luo Ganzhen knew that the concerns raised by the elders were legitimate, but he didn't have any solutions for them either. Thus, he could only shake his head helplessly and turn to Luo Qingchen. Forget it, let's not think too much into it. Shall we send a message to our clan head to urge him to return? I have been sending messages to him all this while, but he hasn't been replying. First Elder Luo Qingchen shook his head bitterly. It might be because he's in seclusion. It hasn't been too long since he has become our clan head, so he might not be too accustomed to the role yet. In any case, I don't think that he's the type to flee in the face of danger. Otherwise, he wouldn't have stepped up against the 100 Schools of Philosophers for us back then. Luo Ganzhen reassured the elders around. Just as he was about to continue speaking, an old man suddenly barged into the room. Deputy Clan Head, what's wrong? Recognizing the old man who had just entered, Luo Ganzhen frowned. The other party was the 16th elder of the Luo clan, Luo Qingyuan. For an elder to be running around so anxiously in another clan, something major must have happened. Our clan head. He has arrived. Elder Qingyuan reported anxiously. Our clan head is here. Where is he? Startled, Luo Ganzhen asked as he hurriedly got to his feet. At the same time, delighted looks also surfaced on the faces of the other elders. They quickly turned their gazes toward the doorway, but there wasn't a figure in sight. As soon as he returned to the Zhong clan, he headed straight to Zhong Xian's residence. I think he's intending on challenging the head of the Zhong clan privately, Elder Qingyuan explained in a fluster. He has already gone to challenge Zhong Xian? Why didn't you inform us? Everyone was stunned by the revelation. The reason why they had come here was to battle it out with the head of the Zhong clan. Yet, they were actually unaware that their clan head had gone ahead to challenge the other party privately. Our clan head went to confront for the head of the Zhong clan secretly. We only found out about the matter a while ago too. Elder Qingyuan explained. Quick, bring us over. Hearing that the clan head had already gone to challenge Zhong Xian, Luo Ganzhen and the others couldn't bring themselves to remain seated anymore. With Luo Qingyuan taking the lead, it didn't take long for the crowd to arrive before a vast residence. This residence had a powerful formation erected around it, preventing any energies within from leaking out. In a sense, it could be said to be an isolated world in itself. At the very center of the residence, there was a dueling ring with two figures standing on opposite ends of one another. Fearsome auras were emanating from the two parties. They were the head of the Luo clan and the head of the Zhong clan respectively, Luo Tianya and Zhong Xian. Our clan head must have his own reason for not informing us about this, so let's just observe silently by the side. Make sure that you don't give yourself away, alright? Luo Ganzhen sent a telepathic message to the crowd, and they swiftly hid by a remote corner. Regardless of the underlying motive their clan head had for not informing them about the duel, it was apparent that he didn't want them to know the outcome of the duel. However, this worked out fine as well. At the very least, it wouldn't become an embarrassment for the Luo clan if it were to end in a loss on their part. Who? The two figures on the dueling platform finally moved. Luo Tianya flicked his palm, and the surrounding space was immediately sealed up. Sila. Everything within the sealed space came to an absolute halt. As if trapped within a still painting, the young man on the opposite end was unable to move at all. Seeing how their clan head had used the spatial quintessence of sealing right from the start, the faces of the crowd flushed crimson in agitation. It seemed like their clan head also knew that his opponent would be formidable, so he had decided to go all out from the start. However, their agitation didn't last for too long. A light chuckle sounded from the other end of the field, and the young man who should have been sealed in place nudged forward a little. Hula! The surrounding space abruptly reverted back to normal. At the same time, Zhong Xian stepped forward lightly, and as thought teleportation, he appeared right before Luo Tianya in the next instant and threw a punch over. Seeing the means that Zhong Xian had executed, Luo Ganzhen's body stiffened as horror surfaced in his eyes. This is the spatial quintessence of sealing too? He might not have comprehended the spatial quintessence of sealing, but he could tell that the nature of Zhong Xian's means was similar to that of their clan head. In other words, they were both spatial quintessence of sealing. A member of the Zhong clan actually executed the Luo clan's spatial quintessence of sealing? What in the world was going on here? Of course, none of the Luo clan's elders had an answer to Luo Ganzhen's question. Meanwhile, on the dueling ring, Luo Tianya seemed to realize that he was in a precarious position, so he swiftly struggled free of the sealed space around him and retaliated with a fist of his own. Peng! The two punches collided with one another, but it was Luo Tianya whose face paled and was sent flying into the seal erected around the dueling ring. Clearly, he had been overpowered by Zhong Xian. Is actually this powerful? The crowd from the Luo clan was rendered speechless. They thought that they would be able to see their clan head destroying Zhong Xian, but who could have thought that their clan head would actually lose in a direct encounter? Su. Reluctant to admit his defeat, Luo Tianya got to his feet and charged forward. Thus, the two fighters collided with one another once more. However, it was as if Zhong Xian was able to read his moves in advance. After trading a few blows, Luo Tianya was suppressed to the point where he could hardly catch his breath. Under the incredible outpour of power, the dueling ring flickered with brilliant lights. The relentless shockwaves that rippled out from the collisions of the two fighters rattled the surrounding seal to the point that it seemed as if it would collapse at any moment. They are truly formidable. The faces of the crowd from the Luo clan gradually turned pale as they watched the intense fight before them. There were a couple of them who had reached Great Sage, but they knew that it was likely that they would be defeated in a single blow if they were to face any of the two figures on the dueling ring. To be honest, the maneuvers executed by the two clan heads weren't complex at all, and their battle techniques were also relatively simple too. However, every move that they made was purposeful, or to use a more exact word, ingenious. Every action that they carried out had a deeper significance in the later stage of the battle, leaving the onlookers awestruck by their foresight. It was as if their eyes were able to peer into the future, allowing them to manipulate the flow of the battle to their advantage. This is a duel between top-notch geniuses. It's indeed not at a level where ordinary mortals like us can fathom. Who could have thought that the yellow dust of the descending swallow could be used in such a manner? It seems like I have been too focused on the form of the technique to see through its crux. Is it just me or that Zhongshe seems to be really familiar with the battle techniques of our Luo clan? Wait a moment. You're right. How could this be? The more that they watched, the more shocked that they became. At this point, the initial excitement had already settled down, leaving nothing but a deep heaviness in their hearts. Chapter 1657 Tianya's Rex, our clan head, isn't a match for Zhongxian, Luo Ganzhen remarked with a helpless look on his face. You're right. It's obvious that Zhongxian is giving some leeway to our clan head. Otherwise, he could have defeated our clan head within 20 moves. Luo Qingchen nodded. Shortly after Luo Qingchen said those words, the panting Luo Tianya suddenly declared with a bitter look on his face, I admit defeat. It seemed like he found it hard to accept this outcome too. Brother Luo, you need not take this matter to heart. In truth, there isn't a great disparity in our fighting prowess at all. Zhongxian walked up to Luo Tianya without the slightest glee from his victory. Instead, with an earnest look on his face, he said, why don't we consider it a draw instead? A loss is a loss. If I can't even admit that much, I might as well change my surname to Zhong, Luo Tianya replied with a dignified tone. That being said, I have to say that the reason behind my loss is due to my personal reasons. It doesn't show that our Luo clan's spatial quintessence of sealing is inferior to your Zhong clan's time quintessence of acceleration at all, but simply because I'm too weak to bring out its true prowess. Of course, Brother Luo. Zhongxian replied earnestly. Space and time have always been considered as equal powers. It would be meaningless to rank one of them over the other. It's not my intention to put down the Luo clan either. To be honest, I'm extremely in awe of the Luo clan. In fact, the main reason why I was barely able to win against you is because my understanding of the Luo clan's spatial quintessence of sealing surpasses yours. What do you mean? Luo Tianya frowned doubtfully. I believe that Brother Luo can tell that I have used the spatial quintessence earlier too. Zhongxian said. This. Luo Tianya was stunned for a moment before realization dawned on him. Indeed. Why are you able to utilize the strength of the Luo clan's spatial quintessence of sealing? The founder of the Luo clan did comprehend the spatial quintessence of sealing, but the lineage of the spatial quintessence of sealing could be further traced up to ancient sage Qiu Wu. I happened to obtain ancient sage Qiu Wu's heritage by a stroke of luck, which is why I wield the power of the spatial quintessence of sealing as well. Zhongxian said. Ancient sage Qiu Wu? Luo Tianya widened his eyes in disbelief. This is the ancient domain left behind by ancient sage Qiu Wu. With a flick of his wrist, a crystal ball materialized before Zhongxian. It emanated a fleeting aura reminiscent of folded spaces. Placing his palm on the crystal ball, Luo Tianya's body trembled in agitation and envy surfaced in the depths of his eyes. It's indeed an artifact left behind by ancient sage Qiu Wu. I must say that I'm truly in awe of Brother Zhong's luck. Haha, it's out of coincidence that I managed to acquire it too. The reason why very few in your Luo clan are able to comprehend the spatial quintessence of sealing isn't due to lack of talent but that the heritage passed down through the generations isn't complete, Zhongxian explained with a light chuckle. From this Cho-Wu palace, I found the complete heavenly art of dimension unravel created by ancient sage Cho-Wu. I'll entrust it into the hands of Brother Luo today. I believe that only in your hands will its true worth shine. Looking at the crystal ball in his hand, Luo Tianya quickly shook his head in astonishment. How I can accept such a valuable artifact from you? There was no one in the master-teacher continent who didn't desire to obtain the heritage of the ancient sages. Yet, the young man actually handed it to him just like that. This gift was simply too heavy for him to accept. At the same time, the hidden Luo Ganshen and the elders of the Luo clan glanced at one another in bewilderment. It was true that the heritage of the Luo clan originated from ancient sage Cho-Wu. Thus, if they could acquire the completed version of the heavenly art of dimension unravel, they would be able to deepen their comprehension of spatial laws significantly. Even if they weren't able to comprehend the spatial quintessence of sealing, their overall fighting prowess would soar by leaps and bounds. Just that, there was supposed to be a grudge between the two of their clans. In fact, the purpose behind their visit was to trample on the Zhong clan. Yet, not only did the other party pay no heed to their pettiness, he even gifted them such a valuable gift. In an instant, the crowd suddenly felt deeply ashamed of themselves. Please don't be in a rush to turn me down, Brother Luo. Allow me to finish my piece first. Placing his hands behind his back, Zhongxian's expression suddenly turned grim. I believe Brother Luo should have also received reports regarding the observation of the mirages of the Temple of Confucius at Tsufu. Based on that in itself, there's little doubt that the real Temple of Confucius would surface very soon. UN. Luo Tianya nodded. The 100 schools of philosophers has already approached and challenged both of our clans. Their motive is very clear, they wish to obtain our celestial amulet of legacy. They might have failed this time around, but considering that Kongsha's heritage is at stake, there's no way they would give up just like that. They would surely try something in the near future. Furthermore, our Zhong clan has found evidence that experts of the otherworldly demonic tribe have managed to sneak into the master-teacher continent. In fact, I have received intelligence from the master-teacher pavilion headquarters that the legendary otherworldly demon emperor is amongst us right now. Zhongxian said grimly. Mankind is in a very vulnerable position at the moment. Our survival is at stake. If we were to engage in infighting during such precarious times, it would be a calamity not just for both of our clans but the entire human race. At a time like this, we can't be engaging in meaningless faction rivalry. We have to unite together as one and cooperate with one another to overcome this ordeal. Otherwise, the one who would have the last laugh would only be the otherworldly demonic tribe. Hearing those words, Luo Tianya fell silent. The reason why the 3 premier clans are able to stand strong even after tens of thousands of years is because of how we hesitate not to band together in times of need to fend against the greater enemy. I know that I have done your Luo clan wrong on the engagement ceremony, but it was definitely not my intention for things to turn out like this. Feelings simply can't be forced. Ruoxin and I have already sworn our futures together. If I were to marry Yusin when my heart isn't with her, it's only a matter of time before the marriage descends into misfortune. In the end, I would only be letting both her and the Luo clan down. I know that I have failed to settle the issue appropriately, and I do feel extremely guilt-ridden for the pain and suffering I have inflicted on Yusin and the Luo clan. So, please consider the heavenly art of dimension unravel and the Cho-Wu palace as tokens of my apology. I'll have to ask Brother Luo not to turn me down, or else this matter might continue to haunt me for life. Zhongxian said. Brother Zhong is truly magnanimous. Since that's the case, I won't hold back either then. After a slight moment of hesitation, Luo Tianya took the crystal ball and kept it in his storage ring. Thinking about it, even though it's indeed that fellow's fault, he didn't do it intentionally either. If he had truly chosen to marry the little princess back then, I would have really doubted his character. If he could bring himself to abandon his lover, there's no reason why he couldn't abandon the little princess later on. Have we been overreacting to the matter? While our minds were still fixated on our own pride and reputation, he's already looking at the fate of the whole mankind from a much higher position than ours. He's truly a noble individual. The hidden crowd from the Luo clan fell silent as their faces reddened in shame. They had been too focused on the Luo clan that they weren't able to look at things from another perspective. If Zhong Xian were to be a heartless person, would he be able to bring the little princess happiness even if he were to marry her? Unlikely. Thank you, Brother Luo. Zhong Xian bowed deeply in gratitude. I'll surely relay your intentions to the Luo clan and speak up on your behalf, Luo Tianya said. At this moment, he lowered his head contemplatively for a moment, seemingly making up an important decision, before he clasped his fist and said, Brother Zhong, there's something which I would like to request of you. Brother Luo, please feel free to speak. Zhong Xian's eyebrows shot up in surprise. As long as it's something within my means, I'll surely try my best to help you. There's something which has been bothering me for a long time now, and I think it's about time for me to put an end to it. Regardless of whether I succeed or not, it's unlikely that I'll be able to return to the Luo clan afterward. Even though I have only become the head of the Luo clan a few days ago, I don't wish to see the Luo clan falling into decline in my absence. Luo Tianya said with a darkened look. It's unlikely that you'll be able to return to the Luo clan. Brother Luo, are you going to enter an ancient domain, or are you intending to exact vengeance? If you require my help, just give me the word and. Startled by those words, Zhong Xian hurriedly said. Brother Zhong, I appreciate your kind intentions, but this is my personal affair. I wish to settle it with my own hands. Even if death lies at the end of the path I seek, I'll still willingly tread down that path. Luo Tianya shook his head and replied determinedly. The matter which I would like to entrust Brother Zhong with isn't that. Zhong Xian frowned in confusion. Taking a deep breath, Luo Tianya flicked his wrist and took out a token. It was the Luo clan's clan head token. Brother Zhong, I hope that you can take my position as the head of the Luo clan. You want me to be the head of the Luo clan? Zhong Xian's body trembled in astonishment. He hurriedly waved his hands in a fluster and exclaimed, How can I do that? Chapter 1658 Head of the Three Clans. Our clan head wants to make Zhong Xian our next clan head? Is our clan head out of his mind? That won't do. I can't accept that. Luo Ganzhen and the others were shocked by Luo Tianya's words as well. They were impressed by Zhong Xian's magnanimity and were willing to forgive him for the affairs at the engagement ceremony, but that didn't mean that they could accept having him as their clan head. Brother Zhong, your prowess with the spatial quintessence of sealing is even more adept than mine, and more importantly, you have inherited the heritage of ancient sage Qiu Wu. Given that even ancient sage Qiu Wu has acknowledged and imparted his lineage to you, you can be considered as a peer to our founder. Naturally, you are more than qualified to become the head of our Luo clan, Luo Tianya said. But Zhong Xian continued waving his hands frantically, seemingly very resistant to the notion. Brother Zhong, correct me if I am wrong. You have just become the head of the Jiang clan, am I right? Luo Tianya suddenly interjected sharply. Yes, that's indeed the case. Zhong Xian nodded. He flicked his wrist, and a token materialized before him. It was the Jiang clan's clan head token. He's the head of the Jiang clan? Is this for real? This is ridiculous. Why would the Jiang clan allow an outsider like him to become their clan head? Luo Ganzhen and the others couldn't believe what they were seeing. It was as if this matter had come right out of a fantasy novel. They could hardly wrap their minds around what was going on. Since the Jiang clan is willing to accept you as their clan head, I believe that our Luo clan will be open enough to do the same as well. Furthermore, given the perilous times we are in, it's of utmost importance for the three premier clans to work closely with one another. I can't think of any better way to do so other than this, Luo Tianya said. He clasped his fist before continuing on. Brother Zhong, I'll have to implore you not to turn me down. I have heard how your lectures in the Jiang clan and the Zhong clan have helped many to achieve breakthroughs in their cultivation. If you were to become the head of the Luo clan, I'll have to ask you not to discriminate against our Luo clan and share your knowledge with our members generously too, so that our Luo clan will be able to better itself. Zhong Xian fell silent. The crowd from the Luo clan also fell silent as well. While they didn't have a good impression of Zhong Xian, there was no denying his ability in imparting knowledge to others. His aptitude as a teacher was far beyond their imagination. The only person they could think of who could possibly compete with him was only Kong Shi. This fact couldn't be more apparent just by looking at his direct disciples. None of his direct disciples had reached their 20s yet, but every single one of them had already become powerhouses on the master-teacher continent. Even the Luo clan would have to think twice before crossing any of them. If they could have such a formidable individual as their clan head, the fighting prowess of their clan members would surely improve tremendously. On the other hand, if they were to continue rejecting Zhongxian, it would only be a matter of time before the Zhong clan and the Jiang clan pulled their distance away from the Luo clan. Before they knew it, the Luo clan would have been completely overshadowed by the other two powers. If Brother Zhong could accede to this request of mine, I would be able to leave with my mind at ease. Otherwise, I'll never rest easy not knowing what would become of the Luo clan in my absence. Luo Tianya bowed earnestly. He flicked his wrist, and the Luo clan's clan head token flew over to Zhongxian. This. All right then, I'll help you look after the Luo clan in your absence. I'll lead the Luo clan in your stead until someone worthy emerges. After a moment of hesitation, Zhongxian took the token and reassured Luo Tianya. Thank you, Brother Zhong. With this, my heart can finally rest easy. Farewell. Who? After bidding his farewell, Luo Tianya turned around and left without any hesitation. In the blink of an eye, he had already vanished from everyone's sight. Hi. It's not that I'm greedy for power, but only with the 3 premier clans united will we have the strength to stand against the 100 schools of philosophers and the otherworldly demonic tribe. Without sufficient strength to tide through this calamity, mankind would be completely eradicated, becoming nothing more than the dust of history. Watching as Luo Tianya left, Zhongxian shook his head and sighed deeply. With a complicated look on his face, he waved his hand and strolled back into his residence. Seeing that both Luo Tianya and Zhongxian had left the vicinity, Luo Ganzhen and the others finally emerged from their hiding spot. Deputy Clan Head. Aside from Luo Tianya, Luo Ganzhen wielded the greatest say in the Luo clan. As such, the crowd instinctively turned their gazes to him to seek his view on the matter. Tianya is right. To survive this adversity, our Luo clan will require Zhongxian's help. Luo Ganzhen said with a helpless sigh. But he's only a Saint 9 Dan cultivator. An elder protested. I don't deny that he's still weak at the moment, but he's the senior of the most respected Grand Elder of the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters, Yang Shi. Not only that, he's also the head of the Sanctum of Sages, the teacher of the Progeny of Combat, the head of the Poison Hall headquarters, the chief of the Glacier Plain Court, the head of the Yuan clan, and the leader of the Spirit Awakener Guild headquarters. All of those powers would rally together on his command. If we were to factor in the Zhong clan and the Jiang clan as well, it's no exaggeration to say that he's the most powerful man on the Master Teacher continent at the moment. If we were to let this opportunity slip by our fingers, we might really fall into a spiral of decline, Luo Ganzhen said. As an individual, the Saint 9 Dan Zhongxian was not of much significance to the Luo clan. However, it would be a different matter if one were to factor in his many identities as well. Even the Master Teacher Pavilion might not possess as much rallying power as Zhongxian did. In fact, if one were to take Yang Shi into account too, Zhongxian's sphere of influence would encompass even the Master Teacher Pavilion as well. Having such a powerful man as their clan head would be crucial to ensuring the Luo clan's survival in the impending crisis. Are we really going to acknowledge him as our clan head? Another elder asked with a bitter look on his face. What the heck was this? They had come to humiliate the Zhong clan, but not only did they fail in their aim, they were even on the verge of acknowledging their sworn enemy as their clan head. It was not as if they couldn't understand the rationale behind it, but this pill was simply too difficult for them to swallow. The more they thought about it, the more stifled they felt. Everything is for the sake of the clan. Knowing their thoughts, Luo Ganzhen heaved another helpless sigh and said, All right, let's return. Tianya is probably waiting for us back at our accommodations. Thus, the crowd quickly rushed back to the guest rooms. There, they saw Luo Tianya sitting within a room with a hesitant look on his face. Upon seeing that the crowd had returned, Luo Tianya hesitated for a moment before speaking up. Elders. Clan head, you need not say anything. I think it's a wise move on your part to have Zhongxian unite the 3 premier clans together. We are willing to heed your command. Luo Ganzhen clasped his fist and said. Luo Tianya's eyebrows raised up in astonishment upon hearing Luo Ganzhen's words. A moment later, he shook his and said, since you are already aware of the matter, I won't speak of it anymore. This is the Qiu Wu Palace which Zhongxian has given me. Take care of it well. It's very likely that I'll never return after I leave this time around. You must heed Zhongshi's orders and make the Luo clan far stronger than what it ever was. After saying his piece, Luo Tianya didn't wait for the response from the crowd before opening a dimension rift and leaping into it, vanishing without a trace. Facing the departure of their clan head, the crowd from the Luo clan remained silent for a very long while. Has our son returned yet? In the main hall of the Zhong clan, Sword Saint Meng was pacing around a room restlessly with a tight frown on her forehead. The clan head has already returned. However, he went out again shortly afterward, and I'm afraid I'm not too sure where he went this time around, an elder replied. That lad. He should know that the Luo clan is here to trample over the Zhong clan's pride, but he still has the mood to be wandering around the place. Sword Saint Meng remarked with a frown. The Luo clan had created a huge fuss with their arrival. It was extremely clear to anyone watching the spectacle that the Luo clan had come with the intentions of humiliating the Zhong clan. Yet, as the head of the Zhong clan, Zhongxian still had to mood to be roaming around at a crucial period like this. This was really unacceptable. Xian'er is a sharp-witted child. I believe that he has his motive for doing so. There's no doubt that we are at fault for this matter, so it's only right for Xian'er to avoid them. His presence would only remind them of the humiliation they had suffered and stoke the hostility between the 2 clans. Sword Saint Xing shook his head. It's one thing for him to avoid the members of the Luo clan, but it won't do for him to continue dragging this matter out like this. If I had a say in this matter, I would have Xian'er marry Luo Ruoxin and Luo Chichi together, and there wouldn't be so much trouble now. Sword Saint Meng harumphed coldly. At this moment, an elder suddenly rushed into the main hall anxiously. Old clan head. Upon stepping into the room, the elder first did a bow before proceeding ahead with his report. The matter concerning the Luo clan has been resolved. Both Sword Saint Xing and Sword Saint Meng were stunned by what they had just heard. Sword Saint Xing hurriedly turned his gaze over and asked, how was it resolved? In their view, this was an extremely prickly matter to deal with. Until Zhongxian had a duel with that Luo Tianya, it was unlikely that the Luo clan would back down on this matter. Yet, before anything could happen, the matter had already been resolved. With an incredulous look on his face, the elder reported that the members of the Luo clan acknowledged Zhongxian as their clan head. They acknowledged Xian'er as their clan head? Sword Saint Xing and Sword Saint Meng glanced at one another before falling into a daze. Starv's Discord, https://discord. GG/ATHVEX. Chapter 1659. Let's go to the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters. The Luo clan had arrived imposingly with the burning resolve to humiliate Zhongxian and the Zhong clan, but before anything could happen, they had already acknowledged him as the clan head. Was there a pit in the heads of those from the Luo clan? Otherwise, why would they do something as foolish as this? I don't know the details either, but I heard that. The elder suddenly halted at this point. He was not sure if the rumors were true, so he was not certain whether he should report the matter or not. Speak. What is it? Sword Saint Xing asked authoritatively. There are rumors that our clan head went to the Jiang clan yesterday, and shortly afterward, the Jiang clan conducted an inauguration ceremony and established him as their clan head. Sword Saint Xing. Sword Saint Meng. Can anyone tell me what in the world is going on here? The Jiang clan and the Luo clan has actually acknowledged someone from the Zhong clan as their clan head. Is there a pit in heads of those from the Jiang clan too? Could this be some kind of infectious disease among the upper echelons of the Master Teacher continent? Maybe we should keep a lookout for it. The Xingmeng sword saints fell into a state of confusion. They could understand the words individually, but when those words were put together, it formed sentences that they simply could not comprehend. And the fact was that the Xingmeng sword saints were not the only ones in state of confusion. Everyone in the Zhong clan was flabbergasted upon hearing the news. Startled expressions could be seen on the faces of the members of the Zhong clan as the news swiftly made its way around. Our clan head, sure is awesome. To actually become the head of the 3 premier clans. This was something completely unprecedented in history. It also did not take long for the news to make its way to the Luo clan, and everyone was dumbstruck to hear of the matter. Luo Shenqing was in the midst of cultivating the spatial quintessence of sealing when he heard the news. Putong. He collapsed to the ground, and his eyes rolled up as he blacked out. Can anyone tell me what in the freaking world just happened? Didn't the clan head and the elders head over there to exact vengeance? Is this what they meant by exacting vengeance? It's finally resolved. Oblivious to the uproar that he had just caused, Zhongxian heaved a sigh of relief and returned back to his room. As long as the matter concerning the Luo clan was not resolved, it would have remained a thorn by his side. Left with no choice, he could only summon his clone and put on an entire skit for the Luo clan. This gave rise to the show that Luo Ganzhen and the others saw. His actions could not be said to be honorable, but given the current circumstances of the world, he did not have the luxury to be picky with his means. As long as he could resolve the conflict with the Luo clan and have them willingly collaborate with the Zhong clan and the Jiang clan for the crisis ahead, everything would be worth it. He had only gone out for an entire day, but he had managed to make massive gains. He cultivated the soul quintessence, advanced his soul cultivation to the aureate body realm, forged the ancient sage corpse into a soulless metal humanoid, collected another golden page, and most importantly of all, become the head of the other 2 premier clans. It had truly been a fruitful day. Since I'm free at the moment, I should advance my primordial spirit to aureate body realm consummation. Taking a deep breath, he activated the formation around the room to keep away any prying eyes before releasing his primordial spirit once more. After being tempered by the heavenly flame tribulation, his soul cultivation had successfully advanced to the aureate body realm. However, it was still some distance away from reaching consummation. Since he had some time, it would be good for him to quickly do so. Otherwise, the massive gap between him and his clone would only slowly drown him in depression. After all, how could the main body be weaker than the clone? How undignified was it for the master to be outdone by the clone? After taking out a couple of cultivation resources, Zhongxian's primordial spirit began devouring spiritual energy furiously. 4 hours later, his entire primordial spirit was gleaming with a golden sheen, as if it was made out of pure gold. I have finally reached consummation stage. Zhongxian's eyes lit up in excitement. It was a little exhausting, but he had finally done it after 4 hours of hard work. With my soul cultivation and my zhenqi cultivation, even if I encounter an intuitive impulse realm cultivator, I will be able to triumph over him with ease. With the Dragonbone Divine Spear in hand, I would stand a chance even against a sempiternal realm primary stage cultivator. Feeling the great power coursing through his body, Zhongxian smiled in delight. Even though his primordial spirit was only at aureate body realm consummation, it had been tempered by the Saint Ascension ordeal, lightning tribulations, and the Empyrean heavenly flame. In terms of fighting prowess, it was already on par with intuitive impulse realm cultivators. With the Dragonbone Divine Spear in hand, he would be able to subdue even Sword Saint Xing in a direct confrontation. I'll be able to protect myself with such strength. As powerful as the Golden Page was, it was ultimately a consumable tool. It would disappear after it was used. The soulless metal humanoid that he had forged from the otherworldly demon ancient sage was formidable as well, but it was highly demanding on his soul energy, and his control over it was not as sharp as compared to moving his own body. In the end, there was nothing more reliable than his own strength. Zhongxian. Just as Zhongxian returned his primordial spirit to his body, he suddenly heard a voice outside. He quickly tore down the barrier and walked out of his room. Luo Ruoxin was seated on one of the benches by the courtyard. Upon seeing him, her eyebrows shot up in astonishment. You have made a breakthrough in your cultivation. It was just a day of absence, but there was a visible difference in Zhong Xian's aura. It felt much deeper than before, making it difficult for one to gauge the depth of his strength in a single glance. I guess so. Zhong Xian replied with a nod. It's good that you have made a breakthrough. I have to make a trip to the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters to settle some matters, and I can bring you to the area where Kongsha left behind his superior breakthrough method, Luo Ruoxin said. You are going to the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters? Zhong Xian asked in surprise. Yuan. I can see great energy coursing from your body, and it's on the verge of running amok. Without a doubt, it's about time for you to raise your cultivation. This way, even if something happens, you will have the strength to cope, and I'll. Luo Ruoxin paused for a brief moment before saying, also be able to rest assured. Yuan. It's indeed about time for me to push for a breakthrough. Zhong Xian nodded. The innate fetal poison was simply too smug. He had to achieve a breakthrough as soon as possible and burn that fellow completely with the heavenly flame. Otherwise, if that fellow suddenly lost its rationality and attempted something, he would really be a goner. On top of that, if he achieved a breakthrough in his Zhenqi cultivation to Great Sage, there would surely be a surge in his fighting prowess once more. Paired together with his aureate body realm primordial spirit, even without Kongsha's blood droplet, he would be able to defeat any cultivator beneath ancient Sei. In other words, even if he encountered the scholarly young man once more, he would be able to apprehend him and force him to spit out the whereabouts of Zhao Ya and the others. The only consolation for him right now was that Zhao Ya and the others were not in any major danger. As the heads of major powers, they were bound to have soul lanterns. If something had truly happened to them, the Glacier Plain Court, the Poison Hall, and the Yuan clan surely would have sent word over. Nevertheless, the close ties between the 100 schools of philosophers and the otherworldly demonic tribe left him feeling rather unnerved. He had to find out the reason behind this uncanny partnership as soon as possible so as to determine whether the 100 schools of philosophers was an ally or an enemy. Let's head off then, Luo Ruoxin said with a chuckle. All right. Zhong Xian nodded. He quickly called Sun Qiong over and delegated some matters to him before the both of them departed from the Zhong clan. Shortly after leaving the perimeter of the Zhong clan, he suddenly recalled that adolescent boy and asked, "Oh right, will Wu Chen be coming along?" Wu Chen had followed them to the Zhong clan, but it did not seem like he had seen him around over the past day. Of course, he had also been busy during this period of time, so he was not one to speak. He had some matters to attend to, so he left earlier. We are heading to the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters to find Kongsha's superior breakthrough method, not to pick a fight with anyone. There won't be any danger, so it won't matter whether he's around or not, Luo Ruoxin replied. You're right. Zhong Xian nodded before falling silent. He quickly went through a map that he had collected into the Library of Heaven's Path and located the whereabouts of the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters. Following which, he flicked his wrist, and the Dragonbone Divine Spear flew into his hand. Break. With a thrust of his spear, a dimension rift was torn open, and a passageway appeared before them. Zhong Xian took the lead, and Luo Ruoxin followed closely behind him. The next moment, the duo found themselves standing before a cluster of towering buildings that was reminiscent of the scale of a royal palace. The Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters. Chapter 1660 Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters. Despite the massive scale of the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters, its appearance could not be said to be extravagant. In fact, it might not even be on par with the royal palaces of some conferred empires. Nevertheless, through the eye of insight, Zhong Xian could still see righteous aura suffusing the area, creating a dignified and solemn atmosphere. Even the most impetuous individual would feel compelled to hold himself prim and proper under such an atmosphere. It is called academic aura, Luo Ruoxin said. The Master Teacher Pavilion has been spreading its teachings across the Master Teacher continent for tens of thousands of years, bringing wisdom to the masses. The academic aura of the world could be said to have congregated in this area. Due to that, it's much easier to achieve a breakthrough cultivating here. I see. Zhong Xian nodded. He had been a little perplexed to hear that Luo Ruoxin was able to see the academic aura just like him, but he chose not to fuss over it. Instead, He proceeded into the master-teacher pavilion headquarters together with her. The area right before the entrance was a clearing. There was a towering monument standing at a height of over 100 meters tall erected in the midst of the clearing, and the tip of the tablet seemed to pierce right into the clouds. Is this the master-teacher pavilion's monument of valiance? Zhongxian's expression suddenly turned solemn. While he had never been before, he had read many books relating to the master-teacher pavilion headquarters. He knew that there was a monument of valiance erected in the empty clearing just outside of its entrance. It was used to record the names of the heroes who had sacrificed themselves in the midst of liberating mankind from oppression. There were no ornaments on the monument, but on the ground, there were a couple of flower baskets and incense sticks that left trails of smoke drifting into the boundless sky. There were several massive words written on the monument that induced a heavy feeling in one even before approaching it. This was a feeling that came from the depths of one's soul, compelling even great sage cultivators to lower their heads deferentially. These names were all written by Kong Shi personally. They are the names of the heroes who fought against the otherworldly demonic tribe back then. Luo Ruoxin explained as she gazed upon the monument with an unreadable look in her eyes. So many lives were lost in the conflict. Indeed. Zhongxian nodded solemnly. Zhong Lingyuan, Chen Qichuan, Wu Lingji. They were just names, there were no labels to indicate their accomplishments or their standing. Yet, these names seemed to contain a soul of their own. They signified the burning spirits of those who had fought valiantly for freedom back in that tumultuous era. Their resolve was passed down from generation to generation, and even to this day, it still continued to motivate others to stand up bravely for themselves and their brethren. If not for their valiance, we wouldn't have the peace that we enjoy right now. Perhaps, we might still be under the oppression of the otherworldly demonic tribe. Zhongxian nodded. They are worthy of being deemed as heroes. The value of the monument lay not in Kong Shi's writing but the spirit of those who had died struggling against the otherworldly demonic tribe. After a short moment of silence, the two of them walked through the entrance and entered the master-teacher pavilion headquarters. Surprisingly, unlike other master-teacher pavilions or occupation guilds, there was no one on guard to stop them. Seeing through Zhongxian's thoughts, Luo Ruoxin explained with a slight smile, "This is the headquarters of the greatest power on the master-teacher continent. Unless one's tired of living, who'll dare wreak havoc here?" The reason the other master-teacher pavilion branches and occupation guilds needed guards was because they feared troublemakers. However, even the most willful of troublemakers wouldn't dare to pick a fight with the master-teacher pavilion headquarters. Since that was the case, there was no point in wasting manpower to put up guards. "You're right." Zhongxian nodded in realization. The academic aura grew significantly stronger upon entering the premises. It seemed to rid one of the feelings of worry, frustration, and such, thus bringing about greater clarity of mind. Luo Ruoxin was right. Not only would it be much more effective cultivating here, the chances of breeding inner demons would be significantly lower as well. With knowledge comes the wisdom to overcome inner demons. Esteemed guests, welcome to the Master-Teacher Pavilion headquarters. If you have any contacts you are looking for, I can help you relay the news of your arrival to them, a young man said after walking over. Taking a look at the emblem pinned on his chest, Zhongxian's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Even though the young man appeared to be in his early 20s, he was actually a 7-star master teacher. To think that a 7-star master teacher would be serving as a receptionist. This was an extravagance that he would have never dared think of. As expected of the master-teacher pavilion headquarters, "I'm looking for Ren Shi, Ren Qingyuan," Zhongxian replied. Since he was there to look for Kong Shi's heritage, it would be much more convenient if he could seek the assistance of the deputy pavilion master. "You are looking for Ren Shi?" the young man asked. Zhongxian could vaguely see from the depths of the young man's eyes that he was slightly startled by the request, but those emotions did not surface on his face. Instead, the young man continued asking politely, "May I know how I should address you?" Please don't misunderstand. It's in order to inform our deputy pavilion master the identity of his guest. "I am Zhongxian," Zhongxian replied. "Zhongxian? You are Zhongxian?" Despite being calm all this while, The young man jolted in shock upon hearing that name. His voice abruptly grew sharper, seemingly unable to believe what he had just heard. His voice had been a little loud, causing the crowd in the surroundings to overhear their conversation. Curious gazes began gathering on them. His Zhong Xian. After hearing of his deeds, I thought that he would have 3 heads and 6 arms, but he looks more ordinary than I thought. Ordinary is an understatement. Even his appearance is nothing outstanding. His looks don't even come close to matching mine. I sure pity you. To think that you would become blind at such a young age. Such discussions could be heard in the surroundings. Zhong Xian did not expect to enjoy such great fame in the master-teacher pavilion headquarters, and his face twitched slightly upon hearing the chatter around him. Taking a deep breath, he focused his attention of the young man before him and clasped his fist. I'll be troubling you then. Oh. This way please, Zhongshe. The young man quickly shook out of his daze and led the way forward. As he made his way over toward Renshi's office, he could not help but wonder. I heard that this fellow is a vicious figure. Would he pummel me due to my momentary discourtesy? But I'm only a 7-star master teacher. There's no way I could be a match for him. If he really wishes to make a move on me, should I lie down and let him do as he pleases, or should I at least try to put up a fight before being pummeled? Ah, what a dilemma. Just what can I do in order to minimize my embarrassment while appearing awe-inspiring? In a sense, it's an amazing feat to survive the beating of the legendary Zhong Xian, right? Perhaps, I might just be able to win the heart of the woman I love once she hears of this deed. Just like that, the young man's thoughts drifted further and further. If Zhong Xian knew of the thoughts of the fellow before him, he would have surely sent him flying with a single kick. I am a peace-loving, amiable, respectful, self-loving, magnanimous, low-profile person, all right? Just how in the world did you come to the conclusion that I'm a violent man who kicks up a fuss over nothing? Putting aside their miscellaneous thoughts, it did not take long for them to arrive before a massive door. Our deputy pavilion master is inside. I'll see you off here then. Seeing that Zhong Xian did not make a move on him, a hint of disappointment surfaced in the depths of the eyes of the young man. Nevertheless, his actions still remained incredibly polite. Don't you have to report my arrival? Zhong Xian was taken aback. Zhongshe, you are the head of the Zhong clan and the Sanctum of Sages. There's no need for you to report your arrival in order to meet the deputy pavilion master, the young man replied courteously. In terms of standing, Zhong Xian could be considered an equal to Ren Shi. Naturally, there was no need for him to go to the trouble of seeking an audience. Thank you for your help, Zhong Xian told the young man before pushing open the door and walking in. The moment he stepped into the room, he immediately noticed that something was amiss. There were many familiar faces within the room. Many of the 9-star master teachers that he had met back in the Empire Alliance city were there, and there was quite a number of renowned experts as well. At the same time, the crowd also turned their heads over to the door and were taken aback by whom they saw. Zhongshe, you came at a timely moment. I was just about to look for you. The first one to recover was Ren Shi, and he quickly cleared up the air with a light chuckle. You have comprehended the spatial, time, and soul quintessences, and your cultivation has reached Saint Ninden pinnacle as well. Even though you haven't met the formal requirements required to be a 9-star master teacher, you are already qualified to apply for a 9-star master teacher emblem. Since everyone is around today, why don't we carry out your 9-star master teacher examination right now? You are asking me to take the 9-star master teacher examination right now? Zhong Xian was taken aback. He did not expect Ren Shi to raise such a matter all of a sudden. I'm afraid that I'm not prepared for it yet. I didn't even brush my teeth after waking up earlier today, so it might not really be a good idea for me to take the examination right now. Chapter 1661 9-star master teacher. It was not that Zhong Xian was reluctant to become a 9-star master teacher, but he really was not prepared for it yet. The reason why he had come here was to find Kong Shi's superior breakthrough method and advance his cultivation to Great Sage 1 Dan. He did not think that Ren Shi would ask him to undergo the 9-star master teacher examination as soon as they met. Anyone in his position would be dazed. I have checked your supporting occupations, and your proficiencies have already reached levels comparable to the inceptive sages. With your capabilities and talents, I don't think that you'll face any trouble in the examination. It's just a matter of when you want to do it, Rensha remarked with a smile. He had witnessed the prowess of the young man with his own eyes. Be it in the impartation of knowledge, his cultivation, or his capabilities in other fields, they could be said to be impeccable. It was inevitable that he would become a 9-star master teacher. In his view, there was no reason to put off the inevitable. Furthermore, this invitation could also be viewed as a symbol of goodwill and a desire for reconciliation from the master teacher pavilion headquarters. All right then. May I know how the 9-star master teacher examination goes? Zhong Xian asked. Since Rensha had already put it out like that, there was no need for Zhong Xian to hesitate too much. He would eventually take the 9-star master teacher examination anyway, so there was no reason for him to put it off. Given that Rensha had already given him such an offer, he might as well get it over and done with. Just that, the process seemed a little too informal for something as important as the 9-star master teacher examination. It was almost as if it was no big deal at all. Typically speaking, the 9-star master teacher examination requires the examinee to declare his philosophy of pedagogy and find a way to ascertain its effectiveness. However, just the fact that you are able to raise disciples like Wang Ying, Zheng Yang, Zhao Ya, and the others is more than enough to prove the feasibility of your philosophy of pedagogy. As such, there's no need to go through the trouble of examining that. Rensha explained. 9-star master teachers had to have their own set of values and principles that they believed in when it came to teaching their students. While he was uncertain what Zhong Xian's values and principles were, the fact that he had been able to raise so many outstanding students was more than enough to show that his philosophy was effective. Aside from that, your soul depth must also reach 27, and you must be nominated by at least 3 9-star master teachers. You have met the requirements for those 2 as well, so the only segment remaining is the trial of strength. In the interest of time, let's not make things too complicated. Wang Shu, lower your cultivation down to introspective convalescence realm primary stage and exchange blows with Zhongshe, Rensha instructed. All right. An elder known as Wang Shu walked out from the crowd. He took in a deep breath, and the next moment, his aura swiftly weakened. In the blink of an eye, his cultivation had already been suppressed down to introspective convalescence realm primary stage. His true cultivation was only at introspective convalescence realm advanced stage, so it was not too difficult for him to suppress his cultivation. With a smile, he turned to Zhong Xian and said, Zhongshe, be wary. Since it's an examination, I won't be able to go easy on you. I expect nothing less. Zhong Xian replied with a smile. Seeing that Wang Shu was already prepared, Zhong Xian swiftly sent a fist over. With a loud roar, Wang Shu also retaliated with a fist of his own. Peng. Su. Arth. Wang Shu vanished into thin air. The master teachers in the room froze on the spot. Was this really the prowess coming from a Saint Nine Dan cultivator? Even if they were the ones facing the attack, they did not have any confidence that they would be able to fare any better than Wang Shu. Even though your cultivation hasn't reached great sage yet, the fact that you were able to defeat Wang Shu shows that your fighting prowess is already up to par. Liu Shi, prepare the 9-star master teacher emblem. From today, Zhongshe is a 9-star master teacher too. Rensha nodded with a smile. That's it. Zhong Xian was rendered speechless. Everything had happened so quickly that he could hardly believe that this was real. Were it not the fact that he knew that he was in the master teacher pavilion headquarters and that the person standing before him was the deputy pavilion master, he would have thought that he was being scammed by a fraudster. Within half an hour of entering the master teacher pavilion headquarters, he had sent a person flying, and all of a sudden, he was being congratulated for becoming a 9-star master teacher. Even the 1-star master teacher examination that he had taken back then had not been this easy. If this was going to be the case, why did he even go through the trouble of advancing through the ranks? He could have just taken the 9-star master teacher examination right away and cleared everything in one go. Since you have officially become a 9-star master teacher, you are qualified to attend this meeting. Paying no heed to the speechless expression on Zhong Xian's face, Ren Shi carried on with a grim look on his face. Knowing that the matters that they were going to confer about were confidential, Luo Ruoxin turned to Zhongxian and said, "I'll wait for you outside." After which, she departed from the room. Knowing that Ren Shi and the others would not allow an outsider to listen in on the meeting, Zhongxian did not stop her. Instead, he directed a questioning gaze at Ren Qingyuan and asked, "What is the purpose of this meeting for you to be in such a hurry?" By this point, he had also realized that the reason Ren Shi and the others were so eager to have him promoted to 9-star master teacher was so that he would have the clearance to attend this meeting. It's the otherworldly demonic tribe. They have just launched a mass invasion on the master teacher continent, Ren Qingyuan said with a deep frown. The otherworldly demonic tribe has just launched a mass invasion? Zhongxian was taken aback. A 9-star master teacher whom Zhongxian had met before walked to the wall and pointed to a map pinned on it. It was a full map of the master teacher continent, and there were many red dots marked on the map. There is a total of 108 major subterranean galleries linked to the otherworldly battlefields across the master teacher continent, and just a moment ago, we spotted movements in all of them concurrently. The attack has come so abruptly that the Master Teacher Pavilion and Combat Master Hall's personnel stationed there are having trouble holding the fort, the 9-star Master Teacher said. 108 subterranean galleries? Zhongxian was taken aback. He knew that there would be quite a number of subterranean galleries across the Master Teacher continent, but he did not think that there would be so many of them. If the otherworldly demons spilled out from all of them simultaneously, even with the prowess of the Master Teacher Pavilion, they would have trouble curbing them. What in the world is going on? Zhongxian questioned anxiously. I'm unsure of the details either. Everything happened too quickly for us to process what's going on. It started from a minor invasion in some of the subterranean galleries a day ago. It was still within a scale that we could cope with, so we were intending to handle it internally within the Master Teacher Pavilion. However, the scale of the invasion swiftly grew larger, and before we knew it, some of the seals are starting to be worn down. Many master teachers have already been injured. Ren Shi said. Has an invasion of such a scale ever happened before? Zhongxian asked. It has happened before but never concurrently in all 108 major subterranean galleries. Ren Shi shook his head. The Master Teacher Pavilion has already dispatched nearly all of the available 9-star master teachers we have, but it still isn't sufficient to ward off the otherworldly demonic tribe. At this rate, it's likely that all of the seals will be breached within 10 days, thus giving rise to a large-scale invasion on the Master Teacher continent. 10 days. Zhongxian clenched his fists tightly. He did not expect time to be so tight. It was true that the otherworldly demonic tribe was in an advantageous position at the moment, but a forceful, frontal assault like this would cause calamitous losses for them too. Time was currently on the side of the otherworldly demons. The longer they bided their time, the fewer ancient sages mankind would have to deal with them. Given that they had already waited for tens of thousands of years, surely they would be willing to wait a little longer to minimize their losses. It was irrational for the otherworldly demons to go on a rampage at this point in time, or could it be? A thought came to Zhongxian's mind, and he hurriedly asked, does this matter have anything to do with the imminent appearance of the Temple of Confucius? Other than this, he could not think of any other reason for the otherworldly demonic tribe launching such a reckless assault on mankind all of a sudden. The disturbances in the space around the Temple of Confucius are growing stronger and stronger. It's likely that the Temple of Confucius will surface very soon. We've had to station most of our 9-star master teachers there in order to prevent any otherworldly demons from slipping in, so we don't really have sufficient manpower to deal with the invasion at the 108 subterranean galleries at the moment. I believe that the Zhong clan and the other powers should have received word regarding the invasion by now, and we would like to formally request your help in quelling the otherworldly demon. With an expectant look in his eyes, Ren Shi looked at Zhongxian solemnly and said, the circumstances are really not in our favor at the moment. Mankind has to unite as one in order to survive this crisis. Zhongxian finally understood why Ren Shi and the others were in such a hurry to promote him to a 9-star master teacher. As a 9-star master teacher, one of the top experts of the Master Teacher continent, He had an indisputable responsibility to protect mankind in times of adversity. Clearly, Ren Shi and the others had already heard of the news that he had become the head of the 3 premier clans and wanted to rope him onto this warship. After all, the 3 premier clans, the Glacier Plain Court, the Poison Hall. Those powers combined together formed a force sufficient to dictate the fate of the entire Master-Teacher continent. Not even the Master-Teacher Pavilion headquarters would dare underestimate the might of this force. Otherwise, they would not have deferred to those powers back then at Empire Alliance City either. Without much hesitation, Zhongxian nodded gravely in response. For mankind, there's nothing I can't do. Chapter 1662 Shrine of Kongshi. Zhongxian could not be said to be a noble and selfless individual. He was selfish from time to time, and the initial reason that he became a master teacher was not to save mankind but to make use of that identity to access more books. However, there were times when one simply could not back down. If mankind was massacred, what use would his strength be? He was no longer the same individual as when he first transcended over to this world. He had his family and his students. The Luo clan and the Jiang clan were looking to him for directions. There were many people in this world whom he wanted to protect. In fact, the reason he was so determined to mend the relations between the Luo clan and the Zhong clan was for this purpose. Since the threat of the otherworldly demonic tribe was already on their doorstep, there was no way he would back down at this point in time. It's truly reassuring to have you as our ally. Hearing Zhongxian's agreement, relief broke out on Ren Qingyuan and the other 9-star master teachers' faces. They had been wondering how they could talk Zhongxian into the matter, but who would have thought that he would accept it so decisively? I'll send out an order to have the 3 premier clans heed the Master Teacher Pavilion's directive right now, Zhongxian replied. Watching as Zhongxian relayed his instructions to the 3 premier clans without stalling for time, Ren Qingyuan quickly turned his attention back to the 9-star master teachers and issued several strategic commands before dispersing the group. Having acquired the assistance of the 3 premier clans, Ren Qingyuan knew that they would be able to curb the threat of the otherworldly demonic tribe for the time being. Heaving a sigh of relief, he finally turned his gaze back to Zhongxian and asked, "Zhongshi, sorry to keep you waiting. May I know the reason behind your visit to the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters?" When he first heard the name of the young man, he had been nothing more than an insignificant figure who had chosen to pass himself off as Yangshi's student. But before he knew it, the young man had already become a powerhouse whose influence rivaled or even exceeded his. So many things had happened over the past month, and nearly everything was centered around him. As long as the young man did not suffer a premature death, it was likely that he would surpass Yangshi in the future. To be honest, I have a favor to ask of you. Zhongxian clasped his fist. I would like to pay a visit to the shrine of Kongshi. On their way there, Luo Ruoxin had told him that it was likely that Kongshi's superior breakthrough method would be placed in the shrine of Kongshi. The shrine of Kongshi was a heritage site constructed after the departure of Kongshi in order to celebrate his achievements. It contained his personal writing, clothes, and personal possessions. I was still wondering what you were going to ask for. All newly promoted 9-star master teachers have to pay a visit to the shrine of Kongshi as a part of the formalities, so it goes without saying that you are allowed to enter the shrine of Kongshi. Allow me to bring you over right now. Upon hearing the request, Ren Qingyuan chuckled softly and said, It's fine. At a time like this, you probably have a lot of urgent matters to attend to, so I shan't impose on you. However, if I may boldly request, I would like to bring Ruoxin with me into the shrine of Kongshi, Zhongxian said. The superior breakthrough method was bound to be hidden in an inconspicuous location, so he might require Luo Ruoxin's help on that. On top of that, if Ren Qingyuan followed along, it could hinder his search efforts. Ren Qingyuan frowned upon hearing the request. He pondered for a moment before saying, by convention, only 9-star master teachers are allowed to enter the shrine of Kongshi, and newly promoted 9-star master teachers have to be accompanied by a more senior master teacher in. But on account of your contributions to mankind, I'll make an exception for you. However, I'll still have to ask you not to stay in the shrine of Kongshi for too long, roughly a day at maximum. Thank you. Zhongxian's eyes lit up upon hearing those words, and he quickly clasped his fist in gratitude. As the shrine of Kong Shi contained Kong Shi's personal writings and possessions, just being in the vicinity of the shrine was highly beneficial to one's cultivation. Those who had entered the premises were likely to leave with new insights or considerable advancements in their cultivation. As such, it was not rare for 9-star master teachers to frequent the place. However, it was unsaid of for a non-master teacher individual to enter the premises and even stay an entire day there. It truly was not easy for Ren Qingyuan to give such leeway to him. "I'll head over right now," Zhongxian said. After receiving Ren Qingyuan's approval, Zhongxian clarified the location of the shrine of Kongshi before walking out of the room. He quickly found Luo Ruoxin, and the two of them began making their way over to their destination. The shrine of Kongshi was founded by Kongshi's direct disciple, ancient sage Zi Yuan, after his departure. Many of his handwritten drafts, clothes, weapons, and the sort could be found in the shrine. The main purpose for creating the shrine was to allow later generations to feel the spirit of the world's teacher and experience his greatness. Many of the artifacts within the shrine of Kongshi were not offensive in nature, wielding very little prowess. However, they were able to inspire deeper contemplation to cultivators, bringing them epiphanies. Walking along the shrine, they saw the blooded robe that Kongshi had left behind while fending off the otherworldly demonic tribe, the letter that he had sent out after being trapped at Chen Cai. Zhongxian found himself at a loss for words for a very long time. Even someone as powerful as Kongshi had to go through so much in order to quell the otherworldly demonic tribe. After taking a walk around the room, Luo Ruoxin finally stopped before a certain artifact and pointed to it. This is the Sage Ascension platform that Kongshi left behind after his breakthrough to introspective convalescence realm back then. If he has left a cultivation technique behind, it's likely to be hidden in there. Zhongxian quickly turned his gaze over and saw a round stone platform placed among the artifacts. Its surface was cloaked with a layer of beautiful light, reminiscent of jadeite. "This is a product from the heavenly flame tribulation?" Zhongxian remarked in astonishment. There was no doubt that the material of the stone platform was the common blue jadestone. However, for some reason, it felt extraordinarily wholesome, as if it was one complete entity by itself. Furthermore, it emanated a radiant sheen far beyond that of ordinary blue jadestones, comparable to impeccable jadestones. The only force in the world that could turn an ordinary blue jadestone into an impeccable jadestone would be the heavenly flame. More importantly, his primordial spirit felt a feeling of intimacy from the blue jadestone, which further confirmed his doubts. "It's indeed the doing of the heavenly flame." Luo Ruoxin nodded. After confirming the matter, Zhongxian activated the Eye of Insight and began examining the stone platform carefully. A moment later, a deep frown formed on his forehead. He had already figured out how the heavenly flame had converted an ordinary blue jadestone into its current state, but he was still completely bewildered as to how Kongshi managed to summon the heavenly flame tribulation for his breakthrough to Great Sage One Dan. There was nothing that he could consider a clue on the stone platform. Zhongxian turned to Luo Ruoxin and asked doubtfully, "If the superior breakthrough method is truly hidden in here, considering how many formidable 9-star master teachers have looked at this stone platform, its secrets should have already been uncovered by now, right?" Master teachers were known for their sharp eye of discernment. While his Eye of Insight was particularly formidable in this field, there were still over a dozen experts before him who possessed the same ability as well, namely the preceding sanctum heads of the Sanctum of Sages. If even they could not find anything wrong with the stone platform, was there really a cultivation technique hidden in it? "Did you bring the Saint Ascension platform Kongshi has left behind with you?" Instead of explaining the matter, Luo Ruoxin asked about a completely different matter instead. "I did." Zhongxian flicked his wrist, and another stone platform materialized before him. Before passing the orb containing the Qiu Palace to Luo Gan's hen, he had already placed the Saint Ascension platform into his storage ring. "Try using the cultivation technique of the Saint Ascension decipher to infuse your zhenqi into the Saint Ascension platform," Luo Ruoxin instructed. Zhongxian was not sure where this was going, but he nodded in agreement. Taking a deep breath, he swiftly infused his zhenqi into the Saint Ascension platform. TZZZZZZZ. As his Junshi coursed through the Saint Ascension platform, it began emanating energies of a myriad different colors and slowly floated into the air. At the same time, as if attracted by the energies of the Saint Ascension platform, the Sage Ascension platform was drawn over. The two stone platforms began fusing with one another, and before long, they were already a single entity. This. Zhong Xian was startled. He did not think that the two stone platforms would actually be able to fuse with one another. Wang. Just as he was about to ask Luo Ruoxin what was going on, a brilliant burst of light exploded from the stone platform. An illusory black silhouette appeared in the midst of the radiant surroundings, sitting on the stone platform with crossed legs, his eyes tightly shut. This is the recording Kong Shi left behind when he made a breakthrough to Great Sage Wan Dan. The breakthrough method is found in here. Luo Ruoxin's voice sounded anxious. Chapter 1663 Kong Shi's Cultivation Technique Recording. Taking a closer look, Zhong Xian noticed that the silhouette was cultivating. Surges of spiritual energy were gushing into his body, circulating in a certain pathway. This is Kong Shi. Zhong Xian's face twitched. Rather than a human, the silhouette looked more like a burnt sweet potato instead. If not for Luo Ruoxin's reminder, he would not have thought that it was a human. Was this blurred black thing really Kong Shi? Seeing that Zhong Xian was distracted by such small details, Luo Ruoxin sighed helplessly. The recording will only appear once. It's only triggered due to your successful breakthrough as a celestial saint. This opportunity won't come again if you don't pay close attention. Hearing those words, Zhong Xian hurriedly focused his attention on watching the movements of the black shadow. Since it would only appear once, he would have to pay close attention to it. Otherwise, if he missed any crucial aspects, it would be too late for regrets. Flaws. Zhong Xian willed. Hula. The Library of Heaven's Path jolted, but no book was compiled. Zhong Xian's eyebrows shot up. It had failed him at the crucial moment once more. Of course, it could be because Kong Shi possessed the discarnate constitution of divination as well, so the silhouette that he left behind could not be compiled by the Library of Heaven's Path. Forget it, I'll just have to remember as many things as possible by myself. Seeing that the Library of Heaven's Path was not working, Zhong Xian could only observe the movements of the silhouette before him seriously. Sitting on the stone platform, spiritual energy continuously surged into the silhouette, and its aura was growing stronger and stronger. After a moment of examination, Zhong Xian frowned. There is something bizarre about how spiritual energy is entering the body of the silhouette. When pushing for a breakthrough, cultivators would usually open all of their acupoints to take in spiritual energy equally throughout their body so as to better channel it toward the dantian, thus advancing their cultivation. However, this was not the case for the silhouette. He was taking in spiritual energy fastest from his head, followed by his innards, and finally his limbs. Furthermore, the attributes of the spiritual energy that he was taking in were different too. The spiritual energy that he was channeling into his head was overflowing with vitality, seemingly encompassing all attributes. On the other hand, the spiritual energy that he was channeling into his innards was of the fire attribute, the wood attribute for his upper limbs, and the cold attribute for his lower limbs. Noticing Zhong Xian's confused frown, Luo Ruoxin explained, "It's the 4 seasons." 4 seasons? Zhong Xian asked doubtfully. The world can be divided into 4 seasons. People often say that the natural world is devoid of consciousness, but it does instinctively obey a certain law in order to rid the impurities it has accumulated. For example, a poison master can concoct a poisonous substance and scatter it around the lands, creating a blight. But with sufficient time, the world will still be able to neutralize the poison through the power of the changing seasons, thus healing the damage it has sustained, Luo Ruoxin elaborated. So, this is similar to removing the damaged cells in the introspective convalescence realm? Zhong Xian widened his eyes in realization. The natural world wielded the amazing power to heal any damage it had sustained with time, no matter how severe it was. It could take hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of years, but eventually, any damage would be undone, leaving nary a trace at all. So, in terms of regeneration, there was nothing that could outdo the natural forces of the world. Not even ancient sages could come close to competing with it. Zhongxian nodded in wonderment. What Kongsha did was comprehend the ingenuity behind the 4 seasons and incorporate it into his body in order to achieve a breakthrough to the introspective convalescence realm. As expected of the world's teacher, he was truly extraordinary. It was no wonder he was able to summon the heavenly flame tribulation as soon as he achieved a breakthrough to Great Sage One Dan. Using a cultivation technique that was in such close alignment with the world, it was inevitable that he would incur the envy of the heavens. The body as the 4 seasons, the innards as the 5 cardinal directions, the spirit as the heavens, the body as the earth, the creations, and yin-yang as the soul. The more Zhongxian looked, the more surprised he was. He slowly sat down and began to cultivate. The bottleneck that had limited his cultivation tightly in the past began to loosen, and it seemed as if he would take the final step forward at any moment. Just as Zhongxian was just about to push for a breakthrough, a thought suddenly came to his mind. No, that's not right. Kongsha has his own method of pushing for a breakthrough to Great Sage, but I don't share the same constitution as him. I can use his wisdom as a guiding direction for me, but I can't blindly imitate everything that he does. Kongsha had spent his life fighting against the otherworldly demonic tribe, and he had his own persistence and righteousness. On the other hand, Zhongxian had his own encounters and experiences that were very different from Kongsha's. With such divergence in their pathways, their cultivation method could not be identical to one another. If Zhongxian forcefully attempted to walk down the pathway of another, it was likely that his cultivation would go berserk instead. Possessing the library of Heaven's path, the techniques I have cultivated have always been perfect. In terms of comprehension of the heavens, there's no one who can compete with me. Zhongxian thought with a brilliant light gleaming from his eyes. Ever since he started cultivating, he had never taken a single wrong step. Other cultivators could devote their lives to desperately scouring the world, but all they would discover eventually was just a superficial understanding of the world. On the other hand, what he had in his mind was the very embodiment of the heavens. Was there any being in this world who boasted a greater understanding of the world than him? Fighter cultivation techniques, transcendent mortal cultivation techniques, saint cultivation techniques. As his comprehension of each cultivation level flowed through his brain, they swiftly strung together to form a magnificent collage. This is what I want, Zhongxian thought as his consciousness delved right into the collage. The next moment, he found himself standing in uncharted territories, a world that he had never known before. Boom! The bottleneck that had his cultivation sealed at St. Nindon Pinnacle was forcefully torn apart, and his Junchi began undergoing a qualitative metamorphosis. At the same time, his aura also grew stronger at a furious pace. I have made a breakthrough. So, this is the power of a true great sage. Feeling the incredible energy coursing through his meridians, Zhongxian's heart pounded in excitement. It was fortunate that Luo Ruoxin had stopped him from making a breakthrough previously. If he had used the inferior breakthrough method instead, he would have been much weaker than how he was now. Hoo. Shortly after his breakthrough, dark clouds began collapsing inward. An astounding amount of energy was gathering in the area, shrouding the entire shrine of Kongsha. What's happening? That fellow couldn't have made a breakthrough there, could he? T. That's the shrine of Kongsha. Upon seeing the dark clouds gathering in the area, the faces of those in the Master Teacher Pavilion paled in fright. They nearly spurted blood on the spot. Bro, surely you could have chosen a much better place to achieve a breakthrough, right? That's the shrine of Kongsha. Do you know that destroying it is no different from making enemies out of all the Master Teachers across the Master Teacher continent? That's a sin you'll never be able to absolve yourself from. Quick, stop him. Ren Qingyuan cried out in despair. Had he known that this would happen, he never would have allowed that dastardly troublemaker in. Other 9-star Master Teachers entering the shrine of Kongsha would have their souls cleansed, becoming powerful experts who were willing to lay down their lives for mankind. Yet, that fellow actually went in and called a cultivation tribulation upon that sacred place. It was already bad enough for him to use his cultivation tribulation to tear apart the Zhong clan and the Glacier Plain Court, but to think that he was not satisfied with just that. He actually wanted to tear down the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters shrine of Kongsha too. Didn't I treat you courteously earlier? Why do you still want to harm me? Haven't I apologized enough for what I did to you back then? While cursing Zhongxian on the inside, Ren Qingyuan rushed to the shrine of Kongsha with the other elders. Just as he was about to rush in, he felt a furious wave of intense heat gushing out from the shrine, keeping everyone out. Ren Qingyuan grabbed one of the 9-star master teachers and asked, "What's going on right now?" The shrine of Kongsha is surrounded by a unique power that prevents us from inspecting inside with our spiritual perception, so we have no idea. The 9-star master teacher hurriedly explained. A unique power. It's able to keep out the spiritual perception of 9-star master teachers too? Ren Qingyuan was taken aback. There should only be 4 cardinal directions, but this is including the idea of center too. Chapter 1664 Eradicating the Innate Fetal Poison 1. Even the weakest 9-star master teacher who remained in the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters was at least at introspective convalescence realm primary stage. On the other hand, the strongest ones were around Sword Saint Xing's caliber. Yet, with their strength, they were neither able to enter the shrine of Kongsha or inspect the interiors with their spiritual perception. Just what in the world was going on inside? My ancestor, will you only be appeased after you tear down the shrine of Kongsha too? Boom. In his moment of exasperation, he saw ominous clouds overflowing with power gathering swiftly in the area. Ferocious flames could be seen crackling amidst the clouds, on the verge of descending onto the world at any moment. Is this the heavenly flame tribulation? But why would the flames be black in color? Isn't he only at Saint Nind and Pinnacle? How did he summon such a powerful cultivation ordeal? I don't know either. Maybe it's because he's a genius. The crowd was stunned to see the nature of the clouds gathering in the area. They had verified Zhong Xian's cultivation when they tested him during the 9-star master teacher examination earlier. There was no doubt about it, he was only at Saint Nind and Pinnacle. Even if he managed to achieve a breakthrough, he should have only been at introspective convalescence realm too. But for some inconceivable reason, the cultivation ordeal he had summoned was the heavenly flame tribulation, not to mention an extraordinarily powerful one at that. How the heck did you do it? Did you just absorb all of the treasures in the shrine of Kongsha? A thought suddenly flashed across Ren Qingyuan's mind, and his body began trembling uncontrollably. He exclaimed in horror, "Wait a moment. That's the Empyrean heavenly flame. It's the strongest heavenly flame tribulation. Black heavenly flames." This was a phenomenon which even the knowledgeable 9-star master teachers gathered here had never heard of. Even Ren Qingyuan only knew of its existence through vague information detailing its existence in the Pavilion Master Seal. The Empyrean heavenly flame existed in the color of dusk, and there was nothing in the world that it couldn't set ablaze. If left to free rein, there was little doubt that it would scorch down everything in the world. It was the most fearsome heavenly flame tribulation, and the only cultivator that was known to have summoned it was Kongsha. Was the young man undergoing an encounter similar to that of Kongsha? Did he manage to find some kind of obscure heritage hidden in the shrine of Kongsha which they have missed out on? But even if there was some hidden heritage, it didn't make sense for the young man to find it so quickly. Seal the news for the time being. Make sure that not a single word about this matter leaks out. Ren Qingyuan turned to the elders around him and ordered sternly. Regardless of whether Zhongxian was able to survive the heavenly flame tribulation or not, it wasn't good news for the Master Teacher Pavilion. If he were to survive the heavenly flame tribulation, it would mean that an expert comparable to Kongsha had appeared on the world. With the Zhong clan and many major powers under his leadership, the authority of the Master Teacher Pavilion would be swiftly diminished in the near future. On the other hand, if he were to die in the tribulation, how were they to explain to the Zhong clan, the Luo clan, and the Jiang clan that their head had died in the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters? For the time being, the only thing they could do was to conceal the news as long as they could. The 3 premier clans had barely united together under Zhongxian, And it was through tapping into the young man's influence that the Master-Teacher Pavilion was able to mobilize the 3 premier clans. If a mishap were to happen to the young man at this point in time, everything could swiftly unravel. Faced with internal disharmony and external crisis, even the powerful Master-Teacher Pavilion would collapse in the face of such pressure. We understand. Understanding the implications of this matter, the 9-star Master Teachers quickly created all sorts of formations around the area to conceal the phenomenon. Unaware of the panic occurring outside, Zhongxian's consciousness was immersed in the internal state of his body. He was carefully discerning the changes occurring in his body. Slowly, he reconstructed the foundation of his body to a form that was in greater alignment with nature, thus allowing his energies to flow without any impediment. This resulted in a significant enhancement in his burst power. There are some changes to my meridian network as well. It's starting to bear some resemblance to the meridian network I have reconstructed for Zhao Ya back then. The breakthrough in his Zhenqi cultivation had introduced several changes to the mapping of his meridians too. His meridians had been shifted to assume a form reminiscent of Zhao Ya's meridian network. It seemed like the meridian network he had reconstructed for Zhao Ya was indeed ideal for cultivators. To put it in other words, this proved that the reason why the otherworldly demons were stronger than humans was because they were of a higher level of existence. Otherwise, their meridian network wouldn't have been so closely aligned to the ideal state. It was possible to raise one's level of existence through cultivation, but the difference in the starting point was still a gap that was hard to bridge. Take the dragon tribe for example. No one in the Master-Teacher continent had ever seen a true pure-blooded dragon before, but there was no one who would deny that they were superior existences who wielded devastating strength. Even the dragonbone divine spear would have to bow in the face of the 8 notes of heavenly dragon. Honestly, Zhongxian couldn't even begin to fathom just how powerful pure-blooded dragons would be. Most likely, they wielded strength far surpassing the ancient sages from birth. This was the gap stemming from the different level of existences between 2 beings. It was due to the fact that the otherworldly demons were blessed with a more logical constitution than humans that they were of a higher level of existence. This superior constitution allowed them to be born as transcendent mortals, and it bestowed upon them longevity far exceeding that of humans. The fact that his constitution had changed slightly upon reaching Great Sage meant that he had undergone a qualitative evolution in his level of existence. If he were to bear any offspring in his current state, even if his offspring failed to inherit his bloodline ability, they would still command talents above ordinary cultivators due to their superior constitution. In fact, most of the founders of Tier 3 Sage clans were actually Great Sage 4 Dan Sempiternal Realm experts who failed to reach Ancient Sage in their lifetime. It seems like there are some advancements in my spiritual perception and physical strength too. The changes weren't limited to just Zhongxian's meridian network. His spiritual perception had grown much stronger than before too. In the past, it would have been impossible for him to scrutinize the internal structure of each individual cell, but with his enhanced spiritual perception, he could see even the slightest crease within each cell. At the same time, the range of his spiritual perception had increased to 20 li as well. In other words, if he were to just activate his spiritual perception, nothing within a perimeter of 20 li would be able to escape his notice. Just by activating his spiritual perception, there would be no one within a perimeter of 20 li who would be able to escape his notice. As for his physical body, the improvements weren't significant yet, considering how he had barely achieved a breakthrough and hadn't gotten a chance to temper his body yet. Nevertheless, through the nourishment of the Zhenqi coursing through his meridians, the resilience of his physical body had already surpassed that of Saint Pinnacle artifacts. It was beginning to advance toward the level of Great Sage artifacts. Of course, the greatest change he had experienced was still his Zhenqi. It had become much purer and denser than before. An unimaginable amount of Zhenqi had congregated in his dantian to form a seemingly endless ocean. I should focus on overcoming the heavenly flame tribulation first. All of this information gushed into his mind with a simple sweep of his spiritual perception. However, he knew that this wasn't a good time to be analyzing his own current condition. Taking a deep breath, he turned his gaze to the sky. Voila! In the moment that he turned his gaze to the sky, A bundle of black flame descended from the ominous clouds above. Absorb. With the previous experience of dealing with the Empyrean heavenly flame, there was no longer any fear in Zhongxian's heart. Without any hesitation, he absorbed the black flame into his body. But in the next moment, excruciating pain assaulted his entire existence. An intense heat raged within his body, threatening to melt him down into a puddle of goo. I have to drive my zhenqi and use the heat to temper my body. Zhongxian knew that he was undergoing the scorching body tribulation, scorching spirit tribulation, and scorching heart tribulation simultaneously. Whatever pain he felt was, in truth, a trial for him as well. 3 ordeals simultaneously, which included trials on his spirit and heart as well. He couldn't afford to give up now. The moment that he surrendered himself to fear would be the moment that he would be reduced to ashes. Knowing this fact very well, Zhongxian gritted his teeth and forced himself to bear with the pain as he hurriedly drove his zhenqi to disperse the heat. Tzzzzzzzzzz. Under the relentless ramming of his heaven's path zhenqi, the huge bundle of flame was swiftly reduced to many seeds of fire. Nevertheless, they continued to burn with the same fervor as before. Before Zhongxian knew it, the pain had further intensified. It felt as though it was stabbing deeply into him, rendering him lightheaded. No, this isn't right. How can this be even more painful than the heavenly flame tribulation my primordial spirit faced? Zhongxian thought in alarm as cold sweat gushed down his body. With the experience of overcoming the Empyrean heavenly flame once, he thought that he had nothing to fear this time around. Yet, he realized that his previous experience wasn't any use at all. Could it be that what I have encountered earlier was the heavenly flame tribulation, whereas this one is the sage ascension ordeal? They aren't of the same level as one another. What his primordial spirit had faced previously was indeed the Empyrean heavenly flame, but it was summoned by the breakthrough of his soul cultivation to aureate body realm. On the other hand, the Empyrean heavenly flame he was facing at the moment was a cultivation ordeal summoned by the unique circumstances of his breakthrough to introspective convalescence realm. This was an unconventional tribulation which was summoned only by Kongshe in the past tens of thousands of years. There was a good chance that it was no ordinary heavenly flame tribulation. Zhongxian could understand that this cultivation ordeal was unconventional, but wasn't this way too strong? Even his aureate body realm consummation primordial spirit was having trouble coping with the intense heat of the Empyrean heavenly flame. It was to the point that it seemed as if his consciousness would simply fade away at any moment. He could hardly bring himself to think what would have become of him if he had not advanced his soul cultivation to aureate body realm in advance. Perhaps, he would have lost his consciousness in the moment he absorbed the heavenly flame in his body, thus allowing the heavenly flame to ravage his body as it please. If it was already so difficult for him, how did Kongshe, who didn't possess the library of Heaven's Path, survive this nigh impossible ordeal? Zhongxian couldn't help but wonder in incredulity. 10 kilometer. Chapter 1665 Eradicating the Innate Fetal Poison 2. Knowing that this wasn't a good time for his mind to be wandering around the place, Zhongxian curbed the dizziness in his head and focused his attention on the silhouette on the stone platform. At this moment, the silhouette seemed to be undergoing a similar experience as him. Heavenly flames descending from the heavens seared him mercilessly, turning him into the color of black charcoals. His aura withered swiftly under the heat, and it felt as if he would wilt and breathe his last. Just as his aura grew so feeble that it was nearly indiscernible, a small seed of energy suddenly sprouted from his body. The small seed of energy grew relentlessly in the face of the heat, accumulating power and vitality. Before long, it had already developed into a colossal tree. The silhouette remained completely motionless throughout the process, but his presence seemed to be growing bigger and bigger. It came to a point where it seemed to tower over everything in the world. This is resurgence after desolation, revival after demise. Zhongxian's heart jolted in astonishment. With the arrival of autumn, the resplendent world would gradually wilt and lose all vitality, leaving nothing but piles of discarded autumn leaves on the ground. However, when spring returned to the world once more, everything would come back to life. Vitality would surge back into the world, resuscitating the dead and bestowing new lives. This was the cycle of nature. And the silhouette on the stone platform was using this cycle to his advantage. The more I try to oppose the black flame, the greater the intensity it'll burn with. In other words, if I choose not to oppose the heavenly flame, the temperature of the flame will lower accordingly too. If I could just lower the temperature of the black flame to a level that's tolerable to me, I'll be able to use the heat to temper my body and gradually adapt to the heat. Zhongxian widened his eyes in realization. This was actually a common trait amongst cultivation ordeal. Be it the lightning tribulation or the heavenly flame tribulation, their prowess of the tribulation mirrored the strength of the cultivator it was dealing with. Take the lightning tribulation as an example. The stronger one's cultivation was, the more powerful the lightning tribulation would be. To put it in other words, the more feeble one was, the weaker the lightning tribulation would be. It was counterintuitive, but the key to overcoming this cultivation ordeal was to not oppose it. Otherwise, even if his primordial spirit had reached Aureate body realm, he would still eventually succumb to the intense heat and pass out. What he had to do was to feign weakness before the cultivation ordeal in order to give his body some time to adapt to the heat. The arrival of the winter solstice, the silencing of all beings. Finally seeing a plausible way out of his current quandary, Zhongxian immediately abandoned all attempts to ward off the heat from the black flame. Consciousness seemed to have vanished from his body as he stopped breathing altogether. It was as if winter had descended, extinguishing the flames of life under a weight of coldness. In this moment, it seemed as if eternal silence had set upon the world. Tzzzzzzzz. Just as what Zhongxian had expected, as soon as he abandoned all resistance, the black flame realized that it had lost an opponent and swiftly calmed down. As a result of that, the temperature of the black flame plummeted sharply. To make an analogy, Zhongxian's zhenqi was like gasoline to the black flame. The more he tried to fend off the black flame with his zhenqi, the more domineering the black flame would become in order to quell him. On the other hand, if he were to seal his zhenqi together and keep it from coming into contact with the black flame, with time, the black flame would lose its momentum and extinguish. Having given up on resistance, Zhongxian's aura gradually weakened down to the point where he seemed nothing more than an ordinary mortal. In reciprocation to that, the black flame also diminished to a level tolerable to him. Under the scorching heat of the black flame, black gas began rising out of Zhongxian's body. Slowly, a golden sheen emerged from his physical body. Having cultivated the Heaven's Path golden body, Zhongxian knew that the black gas was the impurities accumulated within his body. Even if he had refined his body time and time again, it was nigh impossible for him to cleanse it fully. In a sense, this was similar to no matter how many times a person washed his body would never be perfectly clean. This was because the spiritual energy in nature was impure. This impurity was also the reason why spirit stones were divided into low tier, middle tier, high tier, and pinnacle. Even the pinnacle spirit stone, which boasted the highest purity of the spirit stones, wasn't close to being devoid of impurities. Given that even the spiritual energy absorbed by a cultivator wasn't perfectly clean, it was inevitable that impurities would gradually accumulate within one's body. The heavenly flame wielded the power to burn these impurities into black gas and expel them from a cultivator's body. Without these impurities to hinder his bodily functions, the cultivator would be able to wield greater power at his disposal. Gold was known to be the element that contained the least impurities. By tempering one's physical body over and over again, it would begin to emanate a beautiful golden sheen. This was also where the term Aureate body originated from. As more and more black gas was being expelled, the golden sheen emanating from Zhongxian's body grew more and more brilliant. In the previous heavenly tribulation, he had only managed to refine his primordial spirit to assume a golden color. However, under the intense scorching of the black flame, his physical body and zhenqi were swiftly being purified, and they were beginning to turn golden as well. With a light knock, a metallic reverberation sounded from his body. It was almost as if his body was a legendary weapon in the making. I think I can start raising the temperature of the black flame. As the black flame tempered his body, he found that the excruciating pain he had suffered previously had been reduced to a level where he could hardly feel anything anymore. This was a sign that he had already adapted to the current level of heat emanated from the black flame, and it no longer posed a threat to him anymore. Thus, he began to drive his junchi. In an instant, it was as if the world had come back to life. The frost had melted, and a surge of vitality sprouted from the depths of his body. Hong Long Long. Sensing the changes in Zhongxian's body, the black flame realized that it had been duped and flew into a rage. Innumerable bundles of black flames descended one after another, threatening to burn the young man down to ashes. However, this was the exact reaction Zhongxian was anticipating from it. Without any hesitation, he absorbed the bundles of black flame into his body. Jijijiji. It wasn't too long ago that the black flame was a force far beyond his means to deal, but after undergoing a period of adaptation, his body had already built up some immunity against the heat. The damage and pain inflicted on his body had both reduced to a level acceptable to him. Black gas continued being expelled from his body, and the golden sheen on his body was becoming more and more brilliant. At the same time, the floor he was sitting on had initially turned black under the heat of the black flame, but at this point, it was starting to grow translucent. Slowly but surely, it was assuming a similar appearance to the blue jadestone he had seen previously. Slowly, Zhongxian felt his body adapting completely to the black flame, and he heaved a sigh of relief. A glint flashed across his eyes as he thought, it's about time to resolve the innate fetal poison. The innate fetal poison had managed to slip into his physical body and hide in his narrowest meridians, where he was unable to reach. This time around, he was determined to accomplish the deed once and for all. Zhongxian took in a deep breath as he turned his gaze toward the ominous clouds above. With a powerful leap, he dashed right into the midst of the Empyrean heavenly flame. Since he had already resolved himself to eliminate the innate fetal poison, he would have to make sure to utterly obliterate it this time around such that it wouldn't be able to make a comeback again. The bundles of black flame that descended from the ominous clouds above wasn't sufficient to guarantee the complete destruction of the innate fetal poison, so he would have to dive into the core of the black flame to carry out the deed. Back then, he did dive into the ominous clouds with his primordial spirit too, but he had remained near the edges. That created an opening for the innate fetal poison to get away. He wouldn't make such a mistake again. Hoo. As soon as he dived into the midst of the dark clouds, he immediately felt innumerable bundles of black flame swarming in his direction, threatening to drown him whole. In the face of the frenzied assault from the black flames, Zhongxian opened his acupoints and devoured them frenziedly. As the black flames surged into his meridians, he channeled them toward the area where the innate fetal poison hid. Jijiji. At this moment, the innate fetal poison was still idling by one corner, oblivious to the fact that Zhongxian had already summoned the heavenly flame tribulation for his physical body too. Caught off guard by the ferocious onslaught of black flames, it released a shrill shriek and quickly took flight. Do you think you have anywhere to run to? After being tortured by the innate fetal poison for so long, Zhongxian couldn't possibly allow it to do as it pleased anymore. Before the innate fetal poison could get far away, black flames surged into the path it was intending to escape to. Before it could even register the situation it was in, all of its paths of escape had been completely sealed. Zhongxian knew how agile the innate fetal poison was when it came to fleeing, so he made sure that everything was in place before launching the decisive assault. At this moment, due to the overwhelming quantity of black flame in him, his entire body had turned into a human-shaped black fireball. If he still couldn't get rid of the innate fetal poison with this, he could really just kill himself on a blob of tofu. Jijiji. Completely surrounded, the innate fetal poison had no way to escape to. Engulfed in the midst of searing black flames, a piercing shriek reminiscent of a banshee's cry shook the air. The shriek slowly dwindled before everything was reduced to silence. It's finally over. Zhongxian heaved a sigh of relief. His physical body and primordial spirit had been tempered by heavenly flames, and his spiritual perception had grown sharp enough to notice any anomaly in his body. No matter how crafty the innate fetal poison was, there was no way it would be able to escape from this. Fearing that the innate fetal poison would make a comeback, even after the piercing shriek faded, Zhongxian continued to channel black flames into his body to sear the innate fetal poison. He continued the process for nearly 10 minutes, stopping only when the dark clouds were beginning to dissipate. Retracting the black flames, Zhongxian swiftly scanned the area where the innate fetal poison had last appeared with his spiritual perception. His eyes widened at what he saw. This. What is this? Zhongxian muttered in shock. Starves Discord, https://Discord. GG80HVEX. Chapter 1666. His smithing. The innate fetal poison which had plagued him for over a year had disappeared without a trace. However, remaining in its place was a ball of black smoke. This bundle of black smoke wasn't too big, roughly the size of a fingernail. It sat quietly in the midst of his meridians, not moving at all. I have no idea what it is, but it's unlikely to be anything good. Let me see if I can get rid of it. Zhongxian continued to channel the black flame into his body to burn the ball of black smoke, but it didn't seem to faze the ball of black smoke at all. Even the Empyrean heavenly flame, which boasted the ability to be able to burn anything down, was completely ineffective against it. What in the world is this ball of black smoke? Following which, Zhongxian tried to use his soul energy and zhenqi to expel the ball of black smoke out of his body, but to his astonishment, it seemed to have taken root in his body. No matter how he tugged and pulled, it refused to budge at all. Could this be the problem which Kongshe was referring to back then? Zhongxian thought with a frown. After taming the pavilion master token, he encountered Kongshe's will, and the latter told him that it wasn't too difficult to resolve the innate fetal poison. What was troublesome was the problem that came after it. He had successfully eradicated the innate fetal poison, but in its place, this ball of black smoke appeared. There was no doubt the problem which Kongshe was referring to was this. Something which even Kongshe deemed to be a problem was likely to be really difficult to deal with. This ball of black smoke is residing in one of my smaller meridians, so my primordial spirit is unable to slip in. Furthermore, it doesn't seem like my Library of Heaven's Path is working on it either. Zhongxian frowned in frustration. He had used his Eye of Insight, Library of Heaven's Path, and everything at his disposal, but he was still unable to identify what the ball of black smoke was. Forget it. Judging from its state, it doesn't seem to pose any harm to me for the time being. I guess I'll have to ask Kongshe about it the next time I meet him. Zhongxian examined the ball of black smoke carefully, and it didn't seem to be poisonous. Deeming it unlikely to cause him any harm in the short run, he decided to put this matter aside for the time being. While he was a little unnerved by its presence, it didn't seem like he was able to get rid of it at the moment. In any case, he had finally managed to resolve the innate fetal poison, and that was truly a huge load off his chest. The tension which had been weighing him down over the past year vanished without a trace, and he suddenly felt light and free. At the same time, the dark clouds in the sky were already halfway through their dissipation, and the heavenly flame tribulation was likely to flee very soon. The current heavenly flame tribulation doesn't pose any threat to me anymore. Even when the tribulation was at its full prowess, it was unable to bring him down. Given that it was already in the midst of dissipation, there was no way it would be able to hurt him anymore. It would be a waste to allow the black flame to dissipate just like that though. Otherwise, who knows when I'll be able to encounter it once more? Zhong Xian thought. The corners of his lips crept up as he flicked his wrist and took out a 3 meters wide round platform. Golden Origin Spirit Stone. This was the treasure which the Dragonbone Divine Spear had given him back at ancient sage Ran Qiu's ancient domain. However, as he had no suitable flame to process the material, he could only store it in his storage ring all this while. However, since there were remnants of the heavenly flame in the sky, and it happened that he had no other use for it at the moment, this was an ideal opportunity to reforge the Golden Origin Cauldron. That fellow had been following him for a very long while now. However, as he had advanced his cultivation too quickly, it didn't take long before it was rendered redundant. Since he had some spare time at the moment, it would be a good chance to upgrade this loyal subordinate of his. As soon as the Golden Origin Spirit Stone came into contact with the black flame, the precious metal which even the most powerful earth flame would have difficulty processing began to soften. In less than 10 breaths, the massive platform had already been reduced to a puddle of metallic fluid. Golden Origin Cauldron, come out. Zhong Xian flicked his wrist. The Golden Origin Cauldron materialized in the air. As soon as it appeared, it squealed out in delight, "Master, did you suddenly miss me? Did someone bully you again? Tell me who he is, and I'll have him reduced to." But before it could finish squealing, it swiftly realized that something was amiss. When it noticed the black flames wrapped around it, its voice quivered in horror. Master, what's that? Why is it so hot? Master, did I offend you somehow that you actually want to melt me down? Please, don't kill me. If you really want me to, I can even give my first time to you." Black lines streaked across Zhong Xian's face. "Shut up. I am trying to upgrade you right now. If you dare utter another word of nonsense, I'll toss you into the black flames and burn you to death." Yes, Master." Hearing that its master was actually intending to upgrade it instead, the Golden Origin Cauldron heaved a sigh of relief. Just as it was about to say something, intense heat from the black flames suddenly gushed in from the surroundings. Under the overwhelming heat, its body began to distort as it lost its structural rigidity. It was gradually starting to melt. Zhong Xian waved his hand, and the melted Golden Origin Spirit Stone swiftly flew over. He began to fuse it together with the Golden Origin Cauldron. "No, this isn't right. The Golden Origin Spirit Stone is too high-tiered. The smithing techniques that I have learned previously can't apply to it. How much of it do I need to fuse into the Golden Origin Cauldron in order to maximize its strength?" Zhong Xian suddenly froze as a question popped up in his head. His comprehension of smithing was only at 8-star pinnacle at the moment, and the knowledge he had was clearly insufficient to properly process the Golden Origin Spirit Stone. A certain proportion had to be struck between various ores in order to maximize the resilience of the resulting alloy. The more precisely the resulting alloy stuck to the ratio, the more powerful it would be. He had never worked with the Golden Origin Spirit Stone before, it was simply too rare. He had only heard of its name before, so there was no way he could have known at what ratio it should be fused with the other metals in order to create a perfect alloy. I was too reckless. Zhong Xian's face twitched awkwardly. If the proportion of the alloy was wrong, no matter how much good stuff he packed into the forging process, the resultant artifact was unlikely to be too powerful. His only thought then was to make full use of the black flame to reforge the Golden Origin Cauldron that he failed to think the matter through thoroughly. Considering that he had already started to fuse the Golden Origin Cauldron together with the Golden Origin Spirit Stone, It was already too late for him to turn back now. Forget it. The Golden Origin Spirit Stone is an exceptionally powerful material, so the more the merrier. In any case, the materials used to forge the Golden Origin Cauldron is too mediocre, so it would be good to replace them all at once. Being an optimistic person, Zhongxian tossed those concerns to the back of his mind. Even if the proportion was wrong, an artifact which had the Golden Origin Spirit Stone mixed into it couldn't possibly turn out to be weak. Since he had already gone wrong, he might as well add more of it. Perhaps, it might rectify his previous mistakes. TZZZZZZZ. As the Golden Origin Cauldron fused with the 3 meters wide round platform, it was swiftly reduced to a metallic lump. Hoo! At this moment, the dark clouds seemed to have run out of power, and with a hoo, the black flames began extinguishing one after another. Crap, the black flames are vanishing too quickly. I haven't even started forging it yet. Zhongxian's face twitched in horror. He was supposed to be upgrading the Golden Origin Cauldron, not to disfigure it. If the black flames were to vanish altogether, the alloy would swiftly solidify, making it nigh impossible for him to reshape it back to the form of a cauldron. Zhongxian quickly flicked his wrist and whipped out a hammer. He rushed forward and began hammering the metallic lump into shape with powerful strikes. Ding-dang ding-dang. Ding-dang ding-dang. The sound of hammering echoed loudly in the air. Outside the shrine of Kong Shi, Ren Qingyuan and the others were looking at the dark clouds above with worried looks. Even I would have to flee in the face of the Empyrean heavenly flame. Considering that Zhongxi has just achieved a breakthrough not too long ago, will he really be able to survive the cultivation ordeal? I don't know either, but doesn't he have the ability to control the lightning tribulation? Perhaps he might be able to do the same with the heavenly flame tribulation too. There's a fundamental difference between lightning tribulations and heavenly flame tribulations. Look up there. He's dashing into the midst of the dark clouds now. Seeing Zhongxian dash into the midst of the dark clouds, the crowd wasn't reassured in the least. Instead, their worry only served to deepen. He might still be able to withstand the lightning energy in the storm clouds of lightning tribulations, but those dark clouds harness a massive inferno within them. How is he going to survive such intense heat? Isn't that sheer recklessness? We can only pray that he has a plan in mind. While the 9-star master teachers were still discussing amongst one another, the dark clouds began showing signs of dissipation. Oh! The heavenly flame tribulation is about to dissipate. So quickly? It can't be that some mishap has happened to him, can it? The crowd quickly turned their gazes to the sky, wanting to see if the legendary genius was able to beat the odds and survive against the devastating Empyrean heavenly flame. However, they ended seeing something they didn't expect to see instead. Amidst the dark clouds, they saw a human silhouette taking out a hammer, and he began hammering a lump floating in front of him. Ding-dang ding-dang. Ding-dang ding-dang. There was a rhythm to the hammering, which sounded surprisingly pleasurable to the ears. He is forging a weapon? Following that question, silence drifted amongst the master teachers. Chapter 1667 The Temple of Confucius appears. There was no cultivator who would disagree that the heavenly flame tribulation was a perilous cultivation ordeal. Countless prodigies had lost their lives in the face of its devastating might. Even in the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters, where the top geniuses of the Master Teacher continent were gathered, most 9-star Master Teachers would spend from several dozens to over 100 years to prepare themselves before daring to face the scorching trial of the heavenly flame tribulation. It was not too long ago that Zhongxian was still at St. Nine-Dan Macrocosm Ascendancy Realm, but before they knew it, he had already summoned a heavenly flame tribulation. To make things worse, the heavenly flame tribulation he had summoned was no other than the most terrifying Empyrean heavenly flame. It was no wonder why everyone was pessimistic about his survival. Was it really possible for a human to survive something of this level? But contrary to their expectations, not only did the young man emerge perfectly fine from the tribulation, they found that he was even making use of the heavenly flame to forge an artifact. Screw that. Constipated looks appeared on the faces of the 9-star master teachers all around. They stared at one another with widened eyes, not knowing what they should make of the situation before them. They had hypothesized many possibilities. Perhaps, the young man might have been burned to cinders, or maybe, he would be able to barely overcome it with grievous wounds. But the thought that he would make use of the heavenly flame to forge an artifact had never crossed their minds. Not even once. Had the world lost its mind? It was one thing for him to be able to control the lightning tribulation, but to actually be using the heavenly flame to forge an artifact. Hell, that was sheer extravagance. Bro, does your family own the heavens or something? The heavenly flame tribulation should have been the heaven's punishment against you. It's not a lighter for you to borrow a flame from. While their minds were struggling to come to terms with the freakish happenings unfolding before their eyes, Zhongxian suddenly turned his gaze in their direction and asked, "Does any of you have any hibernal spirit essence? Lend me some for use. I need it to quench my artifact." Hibernal spirit essence. The abrupt request left Ren Qingyuan's face twitching in frenzy. Nevertheless, he quickly nodded his head and replied, "I have some here." He whipped out a jade bottle with a flick of his wrist before tossing it up into the sky. "Thanks." Zhongxian grabbed the jade bottle and crushed it open. Hula! The hibernal spirit essence shot out from the jade bottle and scattered all over the golden origin cauldron. Tzzzzzzzzzz. White smoke shrouded the golden origin cauldron, placing a veil of mystery over it. Maintaining the right proportion between the various metals used in the alloy was important, but quenching played an even more crucial role in determining the final quality of the artifact. The hibernal spirit essence was the ultimate treasure for quenching artifacts, so most 9-star blacksmiths would usually bring a bottle around with them. Considering how many 9-star master teachers there were around the area, it was almost certain that one of them would have it. "He is forging a weapon." It didn't take too long for the white smoke to dissipate, revealing the true form of the mysterious artifact that was extravagantly forged using heavenly flames. At the same time, Zhongxian heaved a sigh of relief. Ren Qingyuan and the other 9-star master teachers quickly turned their gazes over. What they saw left their lips twitching in horror, and they nearly keeled over. They expected the weapon forged by Zhongxian using the heavenly flame to be mind-blowing. At the very least, it should be a magnificent great sage artifact on par with renowned legendary weapons in the world. "Can anyone tell us what the heck is that black lump over there? It doesn't look like a cauldron, it doesn't look like a brick. Heck, it doesn't even qualify to be called a poop. After all the hammering using all those mystical forging techniques, this is all that you managed to smith." A 9-star master teacher tilted his head uncertainly as he examined the mysterious artifact in the air. "It should be a cauldron, right? Doesn't look like it. To me, it seems more like a shoehorn." "I think you're right. A brick-like shoehorn." Zhongxian ha ha ha. The golden origin cauldron, have finally been upgraded. "Thank you, master." As the quenching came to an end, an excited exclamation sounded in the air. But soon, a doubtful frown appeared on its distorted face as it asked, "Master, I don't feel right. Why does my head feel a little squarish? I seem to wobble quite a bit when I walk. Wait a minute, where are my legs?" "Your stubby legs have always been a major imperfection in your aesthetics, so I modified it a little for you," Zhongxian replied without the slightest hint of redness on his face. "You altered it? Then, where is my furnace?" The golden origin cauldron examined its body carefully for a very long while but was unable to find its furnace, so it couldn't help but ask. "It made your figure a little bulky, so I filled it up with the golden origin spirit stone," Zhongxian replied with a reassuring voice. "How do I forge artifacts or pills without a furnace? Those are just minor issues. You need to let go of some stuff in order to make space for better upgrades. Don't you feel like your bottom has grown much bigger? I made it this way to complement your fighting style. With this, you can better crush your opponent with your bottom," Zhongxian remarked earnestly. "Honestly speaking, I think you are much more dashing than before." "Am I? Haha, I guess I'm asking the obvious. Who else could be more good-looking than me, the golden origin cauldron? I should be able to attract many female cauldrons in the future." The golden origin cauldron laughed heartily in satisfaction. "Ren Qingyuan. The 9-star master teachers. Did this pair of master and servant have some kind of misconception as to what was considered beautiful in this world? Anyone with functioning eyes wouldn't be able to tell that it was a cauldron at all. Was it really fine for them to be so delusional? Oh well. Geniuses tended to have their own quirks. Whatever that pleased them. Paying no heed to the stupefied crowd below, Zhongxian examined the golden origin cauldron before him carefully. Due to him adding too much golden origin spirit stone, it looked just nothing more than a lumpy mess. However, its prowess wasn't to be underestimated despite its misshapen exterior. It might have been unbelievable to anyone just looking at its exterior, but the current golden origin cauldron was actually a true great sage artifact. Its weight had reached a level so frightening that even a sempiternal realm primary stage cultivator would be crushed into minced meat should the golden origin cauldron's bottom fall on him. Alright, you should try and comprehend your strength and bring up your cultivation as soon as possible, Zhongxian instructed. Placing the satisfied golden origin cauldron back into the myriad ant hive nest, he began to observe the changes with his body through his spiritual perception. After undergoing the tempering of the Empyrean heavenly flame, not only had his cultivation advanced to Great Sage 1 Den introspective convalescence realm, all of the impurities in his body had been cleaned out too. Every single one of his cells was pulsating with vitality comparable to a newborn. This is introspective convalescence realm consummation? Zhongxian's eyes lit up in joy. It would usually take many years for an introspective convalescence realm primary stage cultivator to refine his body and advance his cultivation. However, through the tempering of the heavenly flame, his cultivation actually surged all the way up to consummation stage. Not only so, his physical body and zhenqi had also begun taking on a golden sheen. From the looks of it, he only had to reinforce his cultivation for a bit before he was ready to push for a breakthrough to Aureate body realm. With my current zhenqi cultivation and soul cultivation, along with the golden origin cauldron and the dragonbone divine spear, I should be able to put up a fight even against sempiternal realm pinnacle expert. Zhongxian clenched his fist in agitation. Beyond Great Sage, there was a huge gap between each cultivation stage, thus making it extremely arduous and time-consuming to advance one's cultivation. Yet, within a short span of a day, not only did he advance his primordial spirit to Aureate body realm consummation, he had also managed to push his zhenqi cultivation up to introspective convalescence realm consummation. Even without relying on his overpowered artifacts, he was confident that he would be able to defeat the Xingmeng sword saints with ease. It hadn't been an easy day for him, but his efforts had truly paid off. Previously, he was completely helpless against sempiternal realm cultivators without igniting Kongsha's blood droplet, so he had no choice but to flee from them. But with the current strength that he wielded, he could already put up a decent fight against them. However, I still need some time to get used to my powers before I can bring them out to their full potential. As he had advanced his zhenqi cultivation and soul cultivation separately, there were still some imperfections in wielding them simultaneously. However, that wasn't a big problem. With a few days, he should be able to reconcile the differences between the two and heighten his fighting prowess. After confirming the changes in his body, Zhongxian finally descended back to the ground. He had been in the shrine of Kongsha when he summoned the heavenly flame tribulation, but he had practically swallowed the black flames that descended to earth whole. As such, the buildings in the surroundings didn't come to harm as a result of his cultivation ordeal. Shortly after he landed on the ground, Luo Ruoxin walked out from the shrine of Kongsha as well. Pavilion Master Ren, I am extremely grateful to you. Zhongxian walked up to Ren Qingyuan and clasped his fist. He was in the midst of thanking Ren Qingyuan for granting him access to the shrine of Kongsha when the world around him suddenly tremored intensely. Following which, another radiant sun rose from the horizons of the sky, cloaking the world in its blinding light. Within the rising sun, one could vaguely see an enormous shrine embedded in its depths, resembling a resplendent sky palace. The Temple of Confucius. Ren Qingyuan muttered beneath his breath with narrowed eyes. Chapter 1668 The History of the Great Codex of Spring and Autumn, that is the Temple of Confucius? Taken aback by Ren Qingyuan's words, Zhongxian took a closer look at the newly risen sun and swiftly realized that the sun was located in a parallel dimension. Despite being within sight, it was actually an unimaginable distance away. Or to be more exact, the distance wasn't just limited to spatial displacement but temporal displacement as well. The newly risen sun seemed to exist within the flow of time, and special means were required in order to get to it. As for the temple within the sun, it was obscured from sight by layers of shadow. Even with the eye of insight, Zhongxian found himself unable to catch a closer look at it. According to history, Kong Shi was once trapped by the strongest otherworldly demon emperor in Chen Cai. With his deep understanding of time, he created the Great Codex of Spring and Autumn. When the artifact first came into existence, the seasons of the world were thrown into disarray by its prowess. Spring and autumn intersected one another, causing the plants to blossom at one moment and wilt in the next. Summer and winter clashed with one another, raising storms and tornadoes here and there. Bizarre phenomenons occurred in the places where the Great Codex of Spring-Autumn shone upon. An infant aged into a middle-aged man in the blink of an eye, and an elderly awaiting his death reverted back into an infant in a heartbeat. Recalling the content written in ancient texts, Ren Qingyuan said, "When the Great Codex of Spring and Autumn was first created, mankind was still struggling against the otherworldly demonic tribe. In truth, the prowess of the Great Codex of Spring and Autumn wasn't as great as what the legends put it out to be. After Kong Shi freed himself, he used the powers of the Great Codex of Spring and Autumn to lay waste upon the otherworldly demonic tribe. Before long, people came to revere the artifact, resulting in its widespread fame. There was no otherworldly demon who didn't fear the prowess of the Great Codex of Spring and Autumn. The Great Codex of Spring and Autumn, the ability to manipulate the seasons. Did Kong Shi comprehend the time quintessence as well? Zhongxian asked. This wasn't the first time he was hearing about the Great Codex of Spring and Autumn, but he had never really understood what kind of capabilities it wielded. Judging by Ren Qingyuan's explanation, it seemed like it had the ability to manipulate time. Yuan, it should be the time quintessence. However, it's likely that what Kong Shi has comprehended goes beyond just time acceleration. Based on the information we have in the records, it's likely that he has mastered time deceleration and time freeze too. Ren Qingyuan said. Time deceleration and time freeze? Zhongxian widened his eyes in astonishment. Similar to how there were other spatial quintessences aside from the spatial quintessence of sealing, the same applied to time quintessences as well. The time quintessence comprehended by the Zhong clan was the time quintessence of acceleration, which allowed a cultivator to accelerate his own time. Through accelerating one's time, a second of the opponent's time could translate into 10 seconds of one's time, thus making it appear as if the movements of the other person had slowed instead. But other than the time quintessence of acceleration, there were also the time quintessence of deceleration and the time quintessence of freezing. While the time quintessence of deceleration might not appear to be of much use to most cultivators, it was, in fact, the greatest weapon that human ancient sages had at the moment. It was through hibernation in the state of time deceleration that human ancient sages were able to lengthen their lifespan and continue fighting for mankind. On the other hand, the time quintessence of freezing was known to be the most difficult temporal law to comprehend. In terms of prowess, it was even stronger than the spatial quintessence of sealing. The spatial quintessence of sealing could immobilize a cultivator's physical body, but the cultivator would still retain his consciousness, allowing him to remain aware of the happenings around him. On the other hand, the time quintessence of freezing would even put one's consciousness to a stall. If a cultivator were to be killed in such a state, he would be thoroughly dead. He wouldn't even have a chance to revive himself. If Kong Shi had comprehended the time quintessence of freezing as well, just how powerful could he be? No matter how powerful Vicious was, he couldn't possibly have been a match for Kong Shi. Those are conjectures made by the later generation, so they might not be accurate. However, if one thing was for sure, Kong Shi had indeed infused his knowledge of temporal laws into the Great Codex of Spring and Autumn. If we could obtain the Great Codex of Spring and Autumn and acquire his heritage, that would indubitably be a huge boost to the forces of mankind. No matter how formidable the otherworldly demonic tribe may be, we would be able to quell them with ease, Ren Qingyuan said. The power and influence commanded by the Master-Teacher Pavilion were slowly accrued time. Back in the era shortly after Kong Shi's departure, the Master-Teacher Pavilion had only been founded not too long ago, and it was far from its current scale. While it had achieved a victory over the otherworldly demonic tribe, it didn't have the power or resources to destroy them once and for all. The most it could have done then was to exile them in the otherworldly battlefield. However, mankind had grown much stronger from back then. If they could just acquire the Great Codex of Spring and Autumn, they might just be able to accomplish what the predecessors had failed at. Indeed. Zhongxian nodded in agreement. Mankind had grown collectively stronger since Kong Shi's era, but its number of top-notch experts was on the decline. No one had been able to reach ancient sage ever since 10,000 years ago. What mankind was severely lacking at the moment was fighting prowess in the top echelon. If they could obtain the heritage of the world's teacher, they would be able to resolve this problem and turn the tables on the otherworldly demonic tribe. 9-star Master Teachers of the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters, heed my orders. Other than those who are bound for the subterranean gallery, all of you are to head to Tsufu right away. Since the Temple of Confucius has surfaced, it won't be long before it opens completely. Ren Qingyuan turned around and issued a command. Yes. The 9-star Master Teachers replied resoundingly before rushing off. Zhongshe. Since that the Temple of Confucius has surfaced, there's no doubt that the otherworldly demonic tribe will soon make its move. Do you want to move together with our Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters, or do you intend to move independently? Ren Qingyuan asked. Zhongxian was just about to give his reply when he saw Luo Ruoxin shaking her head lightly by the side. A perplexed frown surfaced on his forehead as he continued, I'm thankful for your thought and concern, but I would like to move independently. All right. Ren Qingyuan didn't seem to be too surprised by Zhongxian's decision. With a nod of his head, he said, let's meet at Tsufu then. After saying those words, Ren Qingyuan turned around and raised his hand. A large group of 9-star Master Teachers swiftly gathered around him. It seemed like they were going to discuss their plans to deal with the otherworldly demonic tribe after the opening of the Temple of Confucius. Let's head back. Zhongxian beckoned to Luo Ruoxin, and the two of them quickly made their leave. In the blink of an eye, they were already out of the perimeter of the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters. Recalling Luo Ruoxin's action earlier, Zhongxian turned to her and asked, with the opening of the Temple of Confucius, the otherworldly demonic tribe would surely make its move too. There's no doubt that they would mobilize their ancient sages too. There might be some restrictions being with the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters, but it would also be safer under their protection. I'm curious to know why you chose to advise me to turn down their offer. In truth, Zhongxian was also thinking of turning down the offer as well, but he didn't expect Luo Ruoxin to advise him to do the same too. Thus, he was a little curious to hear her thoughts on the matter. According to Yang Shi, there was a restriction that prevented ancient sages from entering the heart of the Temple of Confucius to retrieve the Great Codex of Spring and Autumn. However, make no mistake. The true fight would only begin once the Codex was brought out of the Temple of Confucius. As soon as the new owner of the Codex walked out of the premises, the different powers would surely make an attempt to snatch it over. And without a doubt, ancient sages would be embroiled in the tussle as well. It would seem that the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters only had great sages in their ranks, but that was only because they hadn't brought out their trump cards yet. Even the Zhong clan had an ancient sage-old ancestor still alive, so it would stand to reason that the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters would have many more. Without a doubt, staying with the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters would be a much safer option. There's still some time before the Temple of Confucius fully opens, so there's no point in sticking with them just yet. Furthermore, with the surfacing of the Temple of Confucius, we can expect countless experts to make their way to Tsufu as well. Rushing there at this point would bring us no benefit. On the contrary, it would only embroil us in meaningless battles, Luo Ruoxin replied. There's still some time before the Temple of Confucius fully opens? Zhongxian repeated in confusion. He thought that he would be able to enter the surface Temple of Confucius straight with the prime amulet in hand. He didn't think that there would still be some time before its complete opening. Wait, that's not right. Isn't it said that only those who possess the celestial amulets of legacy are able to enter the Temple of Confucius? Even if the experts all over the world were to head here, they wouldn't be able to do anything at all. Zhong Xian asked as he recalled another matter. Only those who possessed the celestial amulet of legacy was able to enter the Temple of Confucius. This was a pre-established fact that no one disputed. Otherwise, the experts of the 100 schools of philosophers wouldn't go so far as to challenge the Zhong clan and the Luo clan. If they couldn't even enter the Temple of Confucius, was there any meaning in them rushing over? It's true that the celestial amulets of legacy are required to enter the Prime Hall and the subordinate halls of the Temple of Confucius, but what about the outer perimeter? Luo Ruoxin remarked with a smile. The outer perimeter? Let's use the Qiu Wu Palace as an example. The Qiu Wu Palace itself is an individual entity which requires quite a bit of trouble to enter, but the outer perimeter around the Qiu Wu Palace is accessible to all cultivators, Luo Ruoxin explained. Zhong Xian fell into deep thought. There were indeed quite a number of formations and obstacles on the outer perimeter of the Qiu Wu Palace. Without the map, it would be nigh impossible for most to reach the Qiu Wu Palace. If that was the case, it would mean that the Temple of Confucius didn't just consist of the Prime Hall and the 6 subordinate halls. It was an entire area consisting of an outer perimeter too, and it was likely that there would be formations and the sort on the outer perimeter. Kongshe has always believed in impartation without discrimination. With the advancements in Zhong Xian's cultivation, the spatial passageways he constructed through ripping open dimension rifts had become significantly stabler. It didn't take long before the massive Zhong clan appeared before their sights. As soon as he entered the Zhong clan, Zhong Xian could already sense that something was amiss. The Zhong clan always had huge crowds walking to and fro, but at this very moment, the entire place felt exceptionally empty. There was hardly anyone within sight. It took quite a bit of searching around before Zhong Xian finally found an elder. He asked anxiously, "What happened?" Nearly all of the cultivators of Saint Realm and above in our Zhong clan have made their way to the subterranean gallery to fend against the invasion of the otherworldly demonic tribe. The Xingmeng Sword Saints have already headed over too. Upon seeing Zhong Xian, the elder hurriedly greeted him with a bow before reporting the current circumstances. They have headed to the subterranean galleries? Zhong Xian widened his eyes in realization. He had been too overwhelmed by the emergence of the Temple of Confucius that he had forgotten about the orders he had passed down earlier. Back when he was still at the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters, he had instructed the 3 premier clans to reinforce the Master Teacher Pavilion in fending against the otherworldly demonic tribe. Which subterranean gallery they head to? Bring me there. Zhong Xian instructed imposingly. With the opening of the Temple of Confucius just around the corner, it was likely that the invasion of the otherworldly demonic tribe would further intensify. After all, they would not want to miss on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This was truly a quandary. The Temple of Confucius was important, but even if they managed to acquire the Great Codex of Spring and Autumn, it would be meaningless if losing the Master Teacher continent was the price of it. The Great Codex of Spring and Autumn could enhance a cultivator's prowess immensely. However, to fight a war of such scale, they would require the might of countless soldiers. It would be a catastrophe if the otherworldly demonic tribe were to breach their defense at this point in time. It was no wonder why the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters was in such a panic, even going to the extent of clearing his 9-star Master Teacher examination in such a slipshod manner. Otherwise, if they were to go through formal procedures, just proving his philosophy of pedagogy was likely to take several years already. Even though there is unrest in all 108 subterranean galleries, our scouts found that most of the subterranean galleries are only facing minor skirmishes at the moment. The local Master Teacher Pavilions should be able to suppress them. The true threat lies in 6 of the subterranean galleries, namely the Master Teacher Pavilion Headquarters Subterranean Gallery, the Dragon Gate Subterranean Gallery, the ICC Subterranean Gallery, the Cloud Sea Subterranean Gallery, the Zhong clan's Dracotaja Mountain Subterranean Gallery, and the Luo clan's Star Cluster Subterranean Gallery. There are many 9-star master teachers to deal with the Subterranean Gallery over at the Master Teacher Pavilion headquarters side, so they don't require any assistance at the moment. Over at the Dragon Gate Subterranean Gallery and the Cloud Sea Subterranean Gallery, the progeny of combat, Zheng Yang, has officially assumed the title of the Master of the Combat Master Hall and led countless combat masters to quell the unrest in those two places. As for the ICC Subterranean Gallery, the Glacier Plain Court, the Yuan clan, the Sanctum of Sages, and the Spirit Awakener Guild have all liaised with one another and sent their forces over to stabilize the region. The other sage clans, occupation guilds, and powers are patrolling the other subterranean galleries to lend their aid wherever required. Last but not least, the Jiang clan is moving alongside with both the Zhong clan and the Luo clan to guard the Dracotaja Mountain Subterranean Gallery and Star Cluster Subterranean Gallery. The otherworldly demons are particularly rampant in the Dracotaja Mountain Subterranean Gallery and the Star Cluster Subterranean Gallery, and the seals which ancient sage Qiu Wu have left behind are having trouble fending them off. As such, all master teachers of 6-star and above in the Zhong clan are all mobilized to the Subterranean Gallery to bolster the defenses, the elder explained. I am left in charge of taking care of the clan while the others are away. Should the situation turn for the worse, I'm responsible for moving our clan members away so as to preserve the lineage of our Zhong clan. Dracotaja Mountain Subterranean Gallery? In other words, there is Subterranean Gallery is right beneath us. Zhong Xian's eyebrows shot up. He knew that some of the regional master teacher pavilion branches were responsible for suppressing the subterranean galleries across the continent, such as the Hongyuan Master Teacher Academy. He should have guessed that it would have been the same for the Zhong clan as well. The Dracotaja Mountain was right next to the Zhong clan, and since the subterranean gallery was named as such, it was likely to be in the vicinity. Yuan, the entrance is right beneath our Zhong clan. If you wish to enter, I can bring you over right now, the elder replied. Bring me over. I wish to take a look, Zhong Xian instructed. Putting aside the fact that the Temple of Confucius wasn't open yet, even if it was, it still wouldn't be as important as quelling the invasion of the otherworldly demonic tribe. Clan head, please follow me. Without any hesitation, the elder led the way forward. Before long, they arrived at their destination. This is the mausoleum of the Zhong clan? Zhong Xian was taken aback. That's right. The subterranean gallery is located beneath our mausoleum, the elder replied. Using heroic spirits of the Zhong clan's predecessors to suppress the subterranean gallery, Zhong Xian murmured quietly. This practice was similar to that of the Hongyuan Master Teacher Academy. Each principal of the Hongyuan Master Teacher Academy would deposit a sliver of their will at the entrance of the subterranean gallery so as to reinforce the seal, thus preventing the otherworldly demonic tribe from stepping onto the Master Teacher continent. Only the heroic spirits of our predecessors are able to suppress the otherworldly demons and prevent them from entering the Master Teacher continent. Clan head, the subterranean gallery is right ahead. I still have some other matters to attend to, so I'll have to take my leave right now. The elder bade his farewell before leaving the area. If the otherworldly demonic tribe were to breach the defenses set up by the Zhong clan and the Jiang clan, their very first point of contact with the Master Teacher continent would be the Zhong clan. Thus, they had to be prepared to move the members of the Zhong clan at any moment. Otherwise, if even the younger generation were to lose their lives in this war, mankind would have nothing to oppose the otherworldly demonic tribe anymore. Yuan. Zhong Xian nodded before making his way into the Zhong clan mausoleum together with Luo Ruoxin. There were countless stone tablets lying all around. Taking a closer look, there was a name inscribed on each of the stone tablets. These were the strongest experts of the Zhong clan in their era, but it was a pity that they were unable to escape the restraints of time. All that was left of them was a fistful of yellow dust. No matter how talented a person was in his lifetime, in the passing of tens of thousands of years, all that would remain of them were just lonely names on blocks of stones. With time, even history would forget who they were and what they did. All that would be left of them were their heroic spirits. Chapter 1670. Entering the subterranean gallery once more. It's due to their sacrifice that mankind is able to enjoy the prosperity and stability it does at the moment. Without them, the world would have already been plunged in chaos. Zhong Xian was never an emotional person. Ever since transcending over, due to his previous life, he had always viewed this world with nonchalance. However, when he saw the students of the Hongyuan Master Teacher Academy charging fearlessly in the face of battle, and countless master teachers staking their life on the line in a subterranean gallery, to be honest, it had truly moved him. His initial impression of the Zhong clan was horrid, but when he saw the countless stone tablets lying around him, he couldn't help but sigh sorrowfully. It was not just due to its strength and accumulation that the Zhong clan became the #1 sage clan. More than that, it was about what they had done. For tens of thousands of years, they had kept the otherworldly demonic tribe suppressed in the subterranean galleries. It was due to their contribution and countless sacrifices that mankind enjoyed the current peace it did. Without them, mankind would have never prospered and developed so far. Boom! While Zhong Xian was deep in thought, he suddenly felt the ground beneath him shaking intensely. Spurts of malevolent aura burst forth from beneath the ground. Wang! Barely after the spurts of malevolent aura reached the surface, the tombstones swiftly released a brilliant light reminiscent of the night illumination pearls. Gradually, the malevolent aura dissipated silently. The fact that the malevolent aura is able to reach here means that the seal beneath is swiftly approaching its limit. I should quickly take a look, Zhong Xian thought. Having been to the Hongyuan Master Teacher Academy's subterranean gallery, he was familiar with this situation. Without any hesitation, he beckoned Luo Ruoxin and quickly advanced forward. Soon, they arrived before a massive sculpture. It was a sculpture of the founder of the Zhong clan. Zhong Xian placed his hand on it. Wang! With a brilliant burst of light, both he and Luo Ruoxin disappeared from the spot. In the next moment, they were already standing in the midst of darkness. Malevolent aura suffused the area, leaving one with a slight feeling of discomfort. The two of them quickly headed forward. Soon, they arrived at a massive fortress. This subterranean gallery was clearly much larger than the one beneath the Hongyuan Master Teacher Academy. The fortress was formidable as well. There were all kinds of active formations shrouding it, keeping any enemy at bay. Entering the fortress, Zhong Xian immediately saw countless members of the Zhong clan. They were standing in a neat formation, reminiscent of soldiers marching into war. Clan head. Upon seeing Zhong Xian, the managing elder quickly rushed forward to greet him. What's the current situation? Zhong Xian asked. It doesn't look too optimistic. The otherworldly demonic tribe has already launched 10 attacks so far, and both sides have already sustained heavy losses. Due to the hindrance of the seal, the losses suffered by the otherworldly demonic tribe is considerably greater than ours. However, I fear that we won't be able to last too long against their crazed attacks, the elder said worriedly. How is the seal at the moment? Zhong Xian asked. I'm not too sure at the moment. Our men were still in control of the area a while ago, but they have been overrun by the otherworldly demonic tribe. I fear that we are unable to approach the seal at the moment, the elder replied. We have lost control over the seal? Isn't that extremely disadvantageous to us? With the experts of our Zhong clan, how did we lose control over the seal? Zhong Xian widened his eyes in disbelief. The main reason why the otherworldly demonic tribe was unable to launch large-scale attacks previously was due to the obstruction of the spatial seals. The spatial seals left behind by ancient sage Qiu Wu were incredibly powerful. Humans were able to pass through the seals freely, but not the otherworldly demonic tribe. Thus, the defensive forces only had to camp outside the seal and slay any otherworldly demons who managed to slip past the seal by luck. If the otherworldly demonic tribe were to take control of the seal, wouldn't they be able to squeeze as many people as they wanted into the subterranean gallery? This meant that their forces would grow swiftly with time. The Zhong clan was powerful, but it wasn't strong enough to stand against the unhindered prowess of the otherworldly demonic tribe. They wouldn't stand a chance at all. I was the one who ordered the members of the Zhong clan to retreat. Before the elder could answer the question, another imposing voice had already echoed by the side. Turning his head over, Zhongxian saw his parents, Sword Saint Xing and Sword Saint Meng, walking over with widened strides. Hearing the words that had come from Sword Saint Xing, Zhongxian frowned. They have already completely breached the seal left behind by ancient sage Qiu Wu, so there isn't any point guarding the area anymore. Rather than to expend our forces on a collapsed seal, it would be much better for us to guard this fortress instead. With the protection of the formations here, we will allow us to bring our losses down to the minimum. Sword Saint Xing explained grimly. The seal has been breached. Zhongxian clenched his fists tightly. Indeed. The otherworldly demonic tribe has truly resolved themselves this time around. They are determined to push their way into the master-teacher continent no matter how much losses they suffer. Sword Saint Xing shook his head. He beckoned with his hand and said, "Follow me." They quickly made their ways to the fortress walls. Gazing forward from the sentry tower, he swiftly noticed the billowing killing aura that had congregated in the distance. Countless otherworldly demons were standing in an orderly formation, reminiscent of an army. Despite their stationary position, their very presence emanated great pressure on those in the fortress. There were many tents and temporary structures erected around the army. From the looks of it, it seemed like the otherworldly demons also knew that it wouldn't be easy for them to overrun the fortress. The seal has been breached, which means that the otherworldly demons can easily traverse into the subterranean gallery. There's no doubt that they are biding their time so that more and more of their brethren could reinforce them. If this were to continue on, we might potentially lose control of this subterranean gallery. Zhongxian analyzed with a deep frown. I know this as well, but having fought with the otherworldly demons for innumerable years, we are well aware of the extent of their forces. Given that they are assaulting all 108 subterranean galleries simultaneously, the number of allies they will be able to gather here is going to be terribly limited. If they really wielded the strength to overrun all 108 subterranean galleries simultaneously, mankind would have already gone extinct many years ago. Sword Saint Xing replied confidently. There was an irreconcilable grudge between mankind and the otherworldly demonic tribe. If the otherworldly demons were truly capable of bringing down all of the subterranean galleries simultaneously, they would have already done so a long time ago. There was no reason for them to contend with living in the barren otherworldly battlefield for so many years, suffering so many grievances. You are saying that they are just putting on an act of bravado? Zhongxian frowned doubtfully. I wouldn't say that it's just an act of bravado, but aside from waiting for the reinforcement from their allies, it's likely that they are held back partially by fear too. They are observing the circumstances in the other subterranean galleries before deciding whether they should launch a decisive assault. If their forces were to be defeated in the other subterranean galleries, it would be meaningless even if they were to claim this one. Without reinforcement, it would only be a matter of time before we forced them back into the otherworldly battlefield. Naturally, it would be meaningless for them to incur disproportionate losses just to claim a plot of land temporarily. On the other hand, if the otherworldly demonic tribe were to successfully overrun the other subterranean galleries, we would be in grave danger too. Sword Saint Xing said. Zhongxian pondered over those words for a moment before nodding. You're right. Nevertheless, this was just a hypothesis on their part at the moment. Furthermore, even if just a single subterranean gallery were to be breached, mankind would surely sustain severe losses. Thus, it was of utmost importance for them to remain on their guard. Wait a moment. Could the same situation be happening in the other subterranean galleries? If that's the case, could this be a diversion tactic? Zhongxian narrowed his eyes in astonishment as a thought surfaced in his mind. A diversion tactic? Sword Saint Xing, as well as the other elders of the Zhong clan, frowned in confusion. There didn't seem to be anything more important than claiming the subterranean galleries that the otherworldly demonic tribe had to divert their attention for. You have been in the subterranean gallery all this while, so it's no wonder you haven't heard of it yet. Just a moment ago, the Temple of Confucius has emerged. It's likely that it'll open very soon. For the otherworldly demonic tribe to invade all of the subterranean galleries at such a point in time and draw the experts of mankind here, could they be buying time? While acting as if they are waiting for reinforcements, Are they just tying down our men here so that we won't be able to focus our manpower on the Temple of Confucius? Zhong Xian revealed his thought. Having crossed blows with mankind many times, the otherworldly demonic tribe were definitely aware that they would sustain massive losses if they were to push ahead with their attacks on the Master-Teacher continent at this point in time. This was similar to the concept of mutually assured destruction in his previous life. Even if the otherworldly demonic tribe had the power to claim the Master-Teacher continent, if they had to sustain heavy casualties in order to do so, was it really still meaningful for them to do so? Was this a price they were willing to pay in exchange for defeating mankind? And not to mention, mankind wasn't the only major power on the Master-Teacher continent. It was true that the Temple of Confucius and the Great Codex of Spring and Autumn were important, but was it so important that they had to sacrifice the lives of so many otherworldly demons to acquire it? In other words, could the reason why they weren't in a rush to attack be because they had already achieved their motives? They had already stalled the most of the experts of mankind here, which meant that they would be in an advantageous position in the fight over the Temple of Confucius. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.